Welcome to Smodcast. I'm Kevin Smith. Okay, kids, Scott Mosier felled with some sort of bronchial infection in Dallas. Not here again. Doesn't matter. Got me a co-host, man. You hear that? The dulcet tones of a lady voice. Now, when you normally hear dulcet tones of a lady voice on a Smodco program, it's my wife bitching at me about fucking how I fucked up something and done something wrong. I don't think we're going to have that today, man. We're going to have a little fucking Love Fest crossover, man. This is a podcast that begins at Smodcast, but then goes over and finishes on a very popular show that y'all should be listening to, and you probably already all are, called Girl on Guy. Yes. Give it up for today's co-host, which is so fucking rare. It's usually just a series of people I know and shit. Give it up for Aisha Tyler. Aisha. You're the girl that I never had. How like when that song was popular, how many times do you have to tell people that's not how my name is spelled?
Oh, no, it was not.
I'm talking
that.
about the ABC song.
The ABC song, which had like an E and it had a bunch of
extra. It was I-E-S-H. Aisha.
My people were good at phonetics. No, I never, it was not that. It was right around, it was like, what else was like, It Takes Two, Rob Bass. It was like that era. So I did a lot of requesting my own, a lot of really like ill-considered requesting of my own song. Like, play my shit. You know, that's not cute. It's never,
yeah, it
lady,
is.
No, it's not.
Somebody had a fucking song called like Kevin Smith. I would have it on nonstop play constantly.
Someone needs to do that immediately. One of your listeners.
You know, I don't wait for people to do shit anymore. I just do it for myself. So over the course of the next week, I'll be composing Kevin Smith.
You want me to do some? He was a boy that never had.
Give me background of like, I met him at the playground. We'll keep it innocent.
He walked from his house in some beautiful house slippers.
I looked at your podcast number recently, and you're creeping up on 100. You've been committed.
Yeah. We're
do this. Put your mic up like
this. It's I didn't put the right end into my mouth.
The girl on Guy host is like point this fucking phallic
complaint.
thing directly
we have a totally
at my
different.
face.
We have our mics look the same, but I have like Shure.
Fuzzy
you just put talking to the business end, but yours is like a side.
Pointer.
Yeah, yours
Mine
is like a side job. It does. It's adorable.
It's more of a design thing.
There we go. I sound so much better.
As yours.
Mine just is tough and I can take it anywhere. It's like the mic that you can drop on stage as a comic and it still functions. That's the mic I have.
I did that once at a show and I felt so bad. I'm not a comic, but I was on stage answering her question and I told a story and it's about it. For dramatic effect, I dropped the microphone. I forgot to tell the sound people I was going to do it.
Oh, wow.
After the show, because there was a dude wearing headphones, monitoring everything because we were shooting it.
Oh, okay.
And that dude got blasted. I felt so bad. I was like, Doug, I'm so fucking sorry.
Wow, sorry, Doug.
Yeah.
I drop a mic like just to show the club I don't give a shit about their equipment.
Really?
I'm like, look, yeah, I'm taking this mic with me. You're going to need a new one you'll never forget me.
Too late. I blew it up.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone just follow that, bitches.
Let's go back to your podcast. So you're creeping up on 100.
100, yeah.
You're committed in a way that most cats aren't. Like once most cats get a job in real media or grown up media, they don't, feel the need to kind of slum around in the podcast world.
I yelled at somebody today, actually, who shall be made nameless. I said, I don't need to make this fucking show. I make it because I love it. Like literally said that to somebody. And then I was embarrassed at the tone I took, but I was like, I make it because I love it. I'm up at 4 a.m. putting this thing together. I don't make any money from it. It's a total money hole.
Right.
I make it because I love it.
It's you. It's where you get to be you, get to say what you say, and without having to be like, oh, we got to fucking cut off in 7 minutes.
Yeah, or I got to say this thing that this guy gave me a piece of paper.
Somebody else wrote something.
Yeah, exactly.
Take me back, though, to the beginning, man. Where does it all begin? Where do you get the fucking idea that you should be up in front of people? The egotistical idea of doing anything
hubris.
Public. It takes hubris to kind of do this sort of thing. Where did that come from? Where did you come from?
I grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
I'm a poor black child. I mean, a joke and yet so literal. It's interesting because I never thought of myself as a funny kid and I wasn't a performer, but I come from funny people. Like my dad looks like Action Jackson. And I'm not fucking around.
So he's muscly.
He's muscly, but he's got like that big man, like that black man mustache, just like robust and serious.
Just the stash?
Just the stash, no beard. And it's like, it's just like licorice colored and glistening. And he drove a motorcycle for most of my childhood.
So you had cool dad.
I had a cool dad who I hated. I mean, every cool dad is the dad where everyone's like, I love your dad. He's the gas. And you're like, oh, fuck me now. Yeah.
I never say fuck me now in regards to my father.
No,
ever,
well, no. I
so
mean, you know what I mean? Like a metaphorical fuck me now. Just
what is
universe.
Why didn't you like him?
Just when you're a kid, you know, your dad, like my dad is the most hands-on, active parent. You know, like I smoked a lot when I was started smoking. Cigarettes, like 7th grade, and I kept insisting to my dad that I'd quit smoking. I was like, quit! I just smoked this because my friends are smoking, and you know, and then I'd just be puffing away at the bus stop. My dad would be across the street, literally in leather on a black Kawasaki Ninja, watching me through my like fucking binoculars, and my friends would be like, dude, that's your dad. Or a black Terminator.
What was he watching?
Watching me just to see what I was doing. I just couldn't lie. Like I couldn't
Did he
lie
used to be special forces?
My dad grew up in Pittsburgh, which is almost like special forces. He just grew up with, you know, like only male child in his family. His dad died during World War II and 4 sisters and a mom. And my dad was
during
the man
World
of the
War
house.
II, fighting in World War II?
He was a seaman. Seaman, yeah. So he died in service. Yeah.
Really?
I know
at
it, doesn't
sea?
it? Yeah. At sea.
You have a relative that died at war at sea?
He was black, so he probably just got pushed off the boat or something like that. Horrible. But I know I'm terrible.
Think about that, man. Did they ever recover a body?
I don't know.
Or is that guy just fucking lost to the ages?
Just gone. Yeah, just gone.
Isn't that weird, man? Yeah. Like in your family.
I asked my dad, he goes, it was service related. That's all he'll tell me. Like he won't talk anymore about
Meaning
it.
like fucking a torpedo.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I got to get it to deal. My dad's old enough that he may go without ever telling me.
This is fucking horrible and shouldn't happen to anybody or any parent. But I just read a news story. I mean, I always add to the list of shit to be terrified about. Death at sea is way up there.
Really?
That's why I never joined any fucking military service.
Why do I think death at sea would be okay?
You're out of your mind. Think about the Natalie Wood death. You're in the inky black darkness, drowning, fucking calling out for Robert Wagner.
You lie back and you let the blackness take you.
You're out of your mind. There's
Everything
no way.
is a sex metaphor with me.
Well, all right. Well, what do you put it like that? Yeah, but in the sex metaphor, there's no, and then a shark bit your fucking arm.
Or then your lungs filled with fluid.
I read this fucking story today that was just like, oh God, another one to add to the list. Just happened in Florida. And I'm not going, this is another reason not to live in Florida, but it's on a list of at least 500 reasons not to live anywhere.
There's a long list.
There's a fucking dude who went to sleep. His brother. He's got there's 2 brothers in the same house. He's got a wife and a kid. Good night. He goes to bed, closes his door, gets in his bed. A fucking sinkhole.
Yes. Oh, I saw this too.
Opens up under his fucking bedroom and swallows him. I should stop laughing. Look at him laughing. This is a horrible story. Swallows the man up whole. He's screaming as he goes down. His brother, stop laughing. Look at her. She's in tears laughing. There's a vein in your forehead. I feel terrible. His brother rushes in to try to save him. He gets trapped.
Oh no. Okay, see how I'm acting?
Now you're stopping biting your lip. You're like, the misery of others. The brother tries to save him. I read this thing. I was heartbroken. He's like, I tried to save him. I could have swore I heard my brother calling for me, but I couldn't reach him. But he had to get fucking rescued.
But now I read that the deal is they can't get to the other brother. Like they think he's gone.
He's swallowed by the earth, and they don't even know if they could bring in equipment to pull him out. That's what I'm saying. Like, when something like that happens, who do you get mad at? Like, I read another article about some cat in New Zealand got torn apart by 4 fucking sharks. One shark, who wasn't even a big one, 4-footer, came up, took a bite. The other ones were like,
smelled it, right?
The feeding frenzy began, and they all attacked this fucking dude. And then the lifeguards came by and started shotgunning into the ocean, just flat out fucking firing into the ocean.
Right, going bananas.
Sharks. And this guy's dead.
He was dead long before they should have.
Well, exactly.
If you're going to get eaten by sharks, that's the way to go. No, that's the way to go.
Why
yes.
All of these deaths are horrible. Here's the best and only. Yeah, here's how you choose. In bed, after you nutted. I love you. You're like, throw me in the ocean. Feed me to a shark.
I'm just saying, if you're trying to think of like all the worst scenarios for death, being ripped apart by 4 sharks is highly superior to being nibbled to death by 1.
All right, fair enough.
So there's that. Hopefully it's over quickly, right? And then
what's going through your head though? Fuck.
You're just
what are the chances?
What are the chances? What are the chances? Oh, fuck me. All right. Not again. But then being swallowed by a sinkhole, first of all, you're mad at God if you believe in. If not, you're mad at the infernal chaos of things, right? Or
are you mad at the state of Florida? This house was built in 1974. Okay. Apparently, I did a little research. I read the article.
Okay. I was going to say, Kevin, what, you have so much time. How do you get anything? Do you sleep?
But come on, you fall down a rabbit hole and shit like this. Because the moment you're like, this story could affect me personally if I fall into a sinkhole,
sadly,
you start reading up on it.
Every internet rabbit hole ends with porn. So thank God.
I did. I was like, I got to catch up on the sinkhole. Finally, I was watching Goatsy pull his ass apart, and I was like, oh, everything's right with the world again.
And all of a sudden, there's like a whole new world of sinkhole porn you didn't know existed.
And it's pretty dirty.
But being
it's built on
alive.
limestone. This is why it happened.
Oh, okay.
When you build on limestone, apparently it's a porous rock. The wetter it gets, the fucking crumblier it gets. So it's like building a house on fucking dry talcum powder that's solid.
And inevitably it's going to go.
Yes. But who the fuck knew how deep it would go? They talked about another story in Florida where like a whole fucking block and half of a pool and $1 million home also fucking eaten by a sinkhole.
Wow.
So now yet another thing to throw on the fucking list.
It's a long list.
This dude just goes by, he's 38 years old, Aisha.
Young guy.
And he's just got a wife and kid, and he's just like, good night, everybody. I'm going to turn in early.
Early. Now I feel badly.
You wind up in the belly of the earth.
Belly of the earth.
But who are you mad at in that instance? Can you get like well, when you're dead, you're probably not mad at
the Greek god of Earth.
You think so?
I can't think. I was going to think of his name.
Mother Gaia?
Mother
You're just
Gaia.
like, oh, Mother Gaia. Who built this house between the cleavage of Mother Gaia? You got to be mad, though. Like, when a death like that, with a shark death, you want to be mad. Like, I'm mad at the ocean. I
shouldn't have been in the ocean, or I shouldn't have been in the ocean. You have no one to blame, and I got to tell you, at least he wasn't tempting fate. He went to bed. People die. Yeah. I mean, I'm dead inside. I realize that. But
you're never going to magic.
No,
people die.
People die, man.
You're going to die.
This existence is empty and bleak, and then you go.
Scott Mosier's a little more fun and hopeful.
Scott Mosier's hoping he's going to get laid.
I'm throwing things out there, hoping for you to go. Nah.
Does Scott talk about the fact that you smoke these things that look like
Let's jump on that.
hippie marijuana cigarettes?
Aisha was fascinated by this before we went, and I was like, wait, fuck it, don't leave it in the locker room. Take it to the floor.
I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but this is shit I smoked in middle school.
Yeah. Well, that's right? I'm evolving backwards.
Are you?
Think about it. I took care of my shit early.
You did it early. You're motivated, making shit
done. So now I'm going backwards.
Now Kevin is in a bathrobe and underoos,
like Benjamin
shorty
Button.
Underoos, smoking fucking Krakatoa Cortex,
like a fat Benjamin Button. I'm going backwards in time.
I love
this. This is the way it should be done. I think. Like I've been thinking about it a lot. Weed is wasted on the youth, man. The kids in high school that I went to school with and shit, like who burned and stuff like that. You need this later in life when fucking shit's not going.
When you need the edges to be rubbed down.
No doubt. When you're a kid, everything's fucking easy.
Yeah. No, and you're smoking pot to get more mellow when you're 15.
Yeah. It's like, how much better do you want it?
Exactly.
Greedy pricks.
I'm going to get high and then I'm going to go home. Someone's going to make me something to eat.
She's talking about these cones I got, though.
They're crazy.
These empty cones. They're basically pre-rolled cigarette rolling papers.
And then you just stuff them with whatever you like.
You pack some weed. Yeah, I choose, of course, just au naturel weed. You pack it with some ground up weed and you go for crazy.
Wow.
I used to be a cigarette smoker. So this enabled me to quit cigarette smoking.
So now but you're literally holding a giant joint as if it was a cigarette.
You say giant like it's...
Like, is that not a giant,
Can I get a witness?
enormous?
Does that look big?
That looks like a huge
It looks like
blunt.
a cigarette.
My assistant is also of the brown persuasion, and I'm actually looking to see if he thinks it's a big one or a little one. I think it's big.
I think it's
impressive.
Anything that looks like
fit for a film mogul,
king size cigarette
for a medium mogul. You have a medium mogul joint.
I thought you said medium mogul. I was like,
medium,
you just won
just
my
a medium
heart.
mogul.
Because usually people are like XXXL mogul.
You're a medium mogul in my book, Kevin.
We're going back to you. I'm not going to let you take it off. Okay. But these are cones, and how it operates is they're empty rolling papers. You pour in weed, you twist, and
that's exciting.
It makes it easier to smoke. Like, think about, have you known people who are like, I start rolling my own cigarettes because it makes me slow down and smoke less.
Yes.
This is the answer to that.
Exactly. Fill it up, stuff it in.
Totally. Make burrito, 3 in a row.
Burrito without filling.
All right. So take me back. So you're being raised by a dad who is essentially a Marine of some sort.
But like a funny Marine. So like a guy who tells great stories, a guy who uses the word motherfucker liberally, a guy who like would kick all the shit off this table to tell a story. Like he's that guy. He's like whipped the tablecloth off the table. And then that motherfucker right there, man, fuck the spotted owl in the ass. He's that guy.
So you were raised by Reggie Hammond in 48 hours.
I was. Reggie Hammond and Action Jackson had a baby. That was my dad. And just the funniest guy, construction worker. He did every kind of like, hard labor job. He was a construction worker. He's
a man who worked with his hands.
Yes, with his hands. Was a meat cutter. He was a butcher. He was a deep sea fisherman.
Can I ask you a quick question? Yeah. Since you're raised by a man who works with his hands, were you ever satisfied with a girly man like myself who's just Like, oh, I write and I write my feelings down. I talk about what's on my mind and shit like that.
Sometimes I blow it out into monologues. I watch other people talk about what's on my mind.
Sometimes I drop wicked truth in a one-page monologue. I've always felt less of a man. Like even my father, who worked for the post office, but didn't like hump mail. He worked canceling stamps in the sexual center. That guy seemed like more of a man because A, he had to like mow the lawns on the weekend, and B, you did a job he hated. That to me is a man.
That's
like,
that's
a
a guy.
man. That's an adult.
That's an adult. Yes, going and doing something with distaste and yet showing up every day. Absolutely.
I've never felt like an adult. I've never had to work with my hands. A few jobs I've had to work with my hands. I was like, fuck. All it made me want to do is find a job where I didn't. I gravitate toward convenience store shit where I'm pushing buttons and shit like Rosie Robot.
Just me stand there and be sarcastic and push a button.
Pretty much. Where like until somebody's like, "What'd you say?" I'm like, "Nothing." You know. But that's my point. If you're raised by a man, were you only attracted to men, or did you? Because I know you play geek games, and you're like a guy's girl. I'm
more nerdy than my dad for sure. It's interesting though, because my husband, from a personality perspective, is the opposite of my father. Like he's super interior and quiet. Oh, he's a fucking man.
What does he do?
He builds.
Dumb question. Does he build?
No. He's an attorney, but he does build. So here's the thing: he's an attorney, but he does build. So like he's this really interior, kind of funny, quiet guy. Okay. But like he's like, I just built a sawhorse out of leftover lumber. That's what he does on the weekend. I'm like, babe, what'd you do? He's like, I made this shelf for my computer equipment.
That voice when he talks to you, just in my
head when I'm trying to get in the mood. In college, he's my college boyfriend.
Get out of here.
Sophomore year.
So you guys been together how
since
long?
College? Oh my God, 19 years. 19 years in May.
Are you one of these ladies that's like, I don't fucking talk about my age, you prick?
No, it's too late because it's on the internet. But I'm very old.
In the age of the internet, you can't really do that shit anymore. Yeah,
no,
you look fucking fantastic.
Right.
So wait, you met this man in college and you stayed with him?
Stayed with him.
You have a podcast called Girl on Guy, which sounds so fucking suggestive, and you've been with the same fucking guy.
I started early.
Almost 20 years.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Where'd you guys meet? Doing what?
Well, I was dating his best friend. That's how we met. So there you go.
Is that guy still in his life?
Yes, and he came to our wedding, and we just.
And when you say dating, do you mean?
Yeah, I mean fucking, definitely fucking.
The fuck out of here.
Yeah, I was definitely fucking.
Now, come on.
I got
for the first few months of your relationship, did that bug your man, or is he so like?
No, he won.
So
my dude won. Right, yeah, he won.
See, man, that's like I didn't have that alpha thinking. Even if I would have won, I would have been like, what was the other guy like? You probably like the other guy better.
Now there's a rabbit hole you should never go down.
Yeah, well, that's fucking the story of my life.
Take some yoga classes, learn some tricks, and put that dude out of her mind.
So where'd you guys meet? Doing what? Some kind of.
I just, I went to Dartmouth and I don't think my husband would object or lie, would object to this, but I like him big. Cause when I was in high school, all the guys were really tiny. Right. So by the time I got to college, finally there were like guys bigger than me. So, I dated some athletes. I dated a few athletes.
Still my beating heart when you say big.
I don't, yes, you'll always be my medium mogul.
You mean tall?
Tall, the football players. I did it. Yeah, I was kind of working on a corner of the
There's a bunch of guys listening going, full of hope as you redefine big.
Winch up my shorts.
You mean more tall.
Yes, I do
big
mean
and
tall.
So he was a big dude?
He was a big dude. He's like 6, in college he was like 6'7".
You're kind of tall too.
260,
what are you?
I'm 6. I'm 6 feet tall.
Yeah, you're definitely taller than me.
Yeah, big lady. But I make everybody feel. I try to make the men in my life always feel large.
How do you do that?
Just by leaning and stooping a little.
No. Subvert your fucking Amazonian womanhood while I just lean on a wall.
I was like, Kevin is playing footsie with me and his toes are very wet, but there's an animal on it. Hey, come here.
I do. Not only do I have toes, but I have a prehensile tongue.
Prehensile tongue coming
my
in.
Toes.
Your second toe is licking my foot. That would be a really great way to come on to a lady. But we were like, is this toe licking my foot?
I hear you like big guys. All right, take us back to your dad then. Okay. Why do you keep saying dad? No mom? Is mom there?
So my mom is a super big part of my life, and she's awesome. But my parents divorced when I was like 10, and then
how many siblings you got?
Just one.
Brother or
sister, younger sister.
So
she was 6. She took it a lot harder than I did. But also because they weren't rich, they didn't fight over anything because there was nothing to fight about. So they just were like, all right, we're calling it. Boom. You take one, I'll take the other. See you on the other side. So
that's what would have happened if my parents divorced.
Yeah. They were like, it's been real. So my mom took my sister and my dad took me because he was like, which one can care for itself? I was big enough to make meals and clean up after myself. So he took me.
It's a smart call. Yeah. How far apart did you guys live?
We both lived in Oakland. Like I grew up in San Francisco, but then we both lived in Oakland for a while. And then my dad and I moved back to San Francisco. So yeah, not far. I take the bus to my mom's house. I talk to her all the time. Right. Call her for advice and stuff.
Does that shape what you do? Having your parents split up at all?
it's funny because I want to be one of those people who has feelings and stuff, feels shit. But it was just like, I don't know, kids are pretty malleable. You just deal with the situation that you're in. I loved it. My dad was hands-on enough to shape me and give me like discipline and a work ethic, but not so hands-on. But hands-off enough to let me do my own thing. So my dad was like really big on independence. He's like, you have a couple of responsibilities and fulfill those responsibilities, and pretty much you can do whatever you want.
What was he like with the boys?
Terrifying, but terrifying. And then he gave up because he had his own dating life. And he's like, if I keep an eye on you, I can't get laid myself. So goodbye. My dad tells the best story about, I snuck out once to go dancing.
Where? To what?
To like an awful club, like an 18 and over club. And I've been this tall since I was like 11, so I could sneak into it. It's called the Palladium. It was in North Beach, right around from Lola, the place with the giant flashing titties. So I used to go there all the time. It was during the New Wave era. It's terrible, terrible period of our nation's cultural history. And I would dress up like kind of a giant, like lumpy black Madonna. And my dad, he told me I couldn't go dancing one night. So I snuck out, I did the thing like the after school special where you build a body out of pillows and then you sneak out the window.
You literally did the Ferris Bueller.
Absolutely. Which by the way, does not work. Yeah. Has never worked except for in movies. So I climb out the window. My friends drive me down there and my dad hears the fucking window go up. I mean, he's like, this bitch. So he gives me like enough time to get down there. And then he just comes and pulls up in front. And then the guys are like, there's a black Terminator on a motorcycle waiting for you outside. and I didn't say anything. My dad was on side. I didn't have to say anything. He just looks at you and you're like, oh, I have to puke. So he grounds me. And the story he tells is that I grounded you, but I immediately realized that if you had to be home, I had to be home watching you. I was never going to get to go out. So I took you off grounding like the next day. I was like,
had super dad.
I did have super dad. I mean, he was a loving dad, but he was also ambivalent dad. But he was a loving ambivalent dad. He was just like,
what do you mean ambivalent dad?
Well, he worked really hard. He worked like 70-hour weeks. So he wasn't around all the time.
Right.
I felt loved. I felt cared for. The house was safe. There was always food. I always had money. I knew he'd show up if I needed him, but this was not helicopter. I don't know about your parents. This was not helicopter parenting time.
Oh, I am a helicopter parent.
Oh, see, my dad, I was like, Dad, I need a ride to this party. It's in the middle of the worst part of town. I might get murdered. He's like, well, see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just not a pick up and drive you there dad.
It's so weird
ever,
to say that. I was just thinking about my own man the other day when I was walking, and I love my father. He's a great guy. He's passed now. He's dead. I hate saying passed. He fucking died. It was nuts.
Thanks for coming over to my side of things.
I can't
People
even
die,
put it
Kevin.
nice. They
People
fucking
die.
died.
Yeah.
He didn't fall in a sinkhole, but shit. His heart fell in some sort of sinkhole.
Oh, no.
But I was thinking about, when I tend to talk about him, people say, oh, you loved your father so much. And I go, yeah, of course I did. But I think that was the kind of relationship we had. Like, he had enough interest in me to take like one day a week for me. He had 3 kids. And he worked at night at the post office. So he was, he'd get home at 7 in the morning. And
sleep
shit.
probably,
go
right?
To sleep.
Yeah.
He'd say goodbye to everyone as we went to school, go to sleep, get up in the afternoon. So we'd see him then and stuff. Then he'd go to sleep for a few more hours, get up at night, go to work. So, he'd come to the shows. If he did a play or something, he'd be there on the Saturday night show, not the Friday night show. But he worked a fucking shit ton. And when he wasn't working, he always had a series of shit to do because my mom, like, mow this lawn, mow my mom's lawn, because she lived around the corner from us, my grandma. So, and I remember him like sitting there listening to music by himself. He was one of these country music fans. God love him. Which is probably why I'm
in
not
Jersey, right? Jersey?
It's crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and then not even like South Jersey, where
Right.
it makes sense where they're fucking hee-hawing it up. It was just this weird kind of blip in the family. His brother and sisters like country music. I don't know why. So this was a guy that didn't really ask for much, didn't really do much and shit. And I thought about the quality time we spent together. We really didn't spend talking.
Yeah.
Like, he'd pick me up from school on a Wednesday, half day, and then we'd go see a movie every fucking week. Every week I'd be like, a relative has died. I have to leave early.
That's adorable.
Every week fucking our family was dropping like rats. Like, in the Catholic school, they're like, you've lost a lot of relatives.
But they were Catholic, so they understood because they tend to have a lot of relatives.
I was like, my Uncle Indiana Jones has died. And they wouldn't know for years because they don't watch that kind of shit.
Oh, they don't consume that devil worship.
But he was also, that's kind of like what he was. He didn't have his own thing going on, like a dating life or fucking riding around on a cool bike and shit, or just going out and doing his thing. But he was kind, I guess ambivalent is kind of right.
Yeah.
Like, I think about the parent that I am, and I was shaped by the parents that I had, and they were absolutely loving. And my mother, of course, was more present than my dad because he worked more. But at the same time, they weren't as engaged.
I think that
I'm so engaged in my daughter's life.
I feel like engaged is important. You know what I mean? I feel like if I had kids, I'd probably be pretty engaged. But one thing I'm really grateful for is my dad was like, his ambivalence had purpose. He was like, you've got to figure out how to do this shit on your own. You've got to do it. You've got to figure out how to get around on your own. You've got to figure out how to live. You're only going to be with me for another couple of years. I'm not going to be the kind of dad that does this thing for you, because then you're going to be out there, you're going to be a fucking failure. So get out. If you want something, go do it. And it's interesting because it made me pretty fearless, which is great. I mean, also pretty idiotic, because I would just run headlong into shit without thinking. But my dad was like, go do it. See how it goes. If you fuck it up, you can do it again. But, I mean, like, don't come to me asking me how to do it. Just go figure out how to fucking do it.
I couldn't fathom being that guy.
Why? Interesting.
You just want to live your kid's life for him and be like, hold on, I've done. It's like having a kid is like watching someone play a video game.
Right.
Where you just want to grab the controller. You're like, I can do it
up, down, up, down, left.
Yes. Oh, God, yes. And you just can't. And there have been moments where my kid, she's presence of mind of 13-year-old now, where she's just like, one day I was just like, kid, this is nothing or whatever, some problem of hers. And she was like, not for nothing, but you make me feel stupid when you say that. I understand that this is nothing.
But it's big to me now. And
she's saying. She's like, I've never gone through it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. My bad. I said, all I'm trying to do is flip the microscope and show you that it's
in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be.
But I said, for you can't pull your eye away from the microscope, because this is the first time
you're experiencing everything. Yeah,
and you just want to grab the controller for him. It's nice. And your dad didn't. Your dad
he never did. My dad was like, here's the controller, and also here's the console. Figure out how to plug it in and where the electricity is. He did a thing that everybody always thinks is so crazy, although he was really present. When my sister and I were maybe like 8 and 5, she was almost 5. We got up for Easter morning and no one was in the house. And there was like a trail of candy through the house, and there were little signs, and it was like, get dressed. And my sister and I are alone, and we're literally 8 and 5. Get dressed, go out of the house, and there's signs all the way down the street to the bus stop. And then we get on a bus, and there's somebody waiting with a sign on the bus. And
fuck out of here. Yeah.
And then we get off and we transfer. There's someone waiting at the transfer stop with another sign. We get that sign. We take the bus all the way from Oakland to San Francisco, which was like probably an hour long, like endeavor, maybe longer. And then our parents are waiting for us at like a smorgasbord restaurant. And we did it all on our own. Like, it was just, now my dad said, by the way, everybody who met us was someone he knew. Like, obviously he set it all up. They were all friends. And, he was following the bus on his motorcycle, because that was how he got down. But in our heads, we were like, we are doing this all by ourselves. Right. And he was like, I just wanted to see to show you that you could do it, and B, to see how you reacted. And if you guys had flipped the fuck out, I would have come and rescued you. But, he was just really about pushing the birds out of the nest. He's like, little bird, you're going to fall eventually. I'm just going to push you and let you deal with it. And I, at the time, there were times when I thought he was mean. Absolutely. I was, you're being mean. My friends get their parents take them everywhere. And my dad was like, I don't give a fuck. But now,
talking dad.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. At my wedding, when my poor, sweet husband's Irish Catholic family came out from Pennsylvania, I was like, if you could just not use the word motherfucker. I know it's a term of endearment for you, but I don't think they've ever heard it. So, if you could just not do that. But I love it now, because it gave me all of my bravery. You know what I mean? That gave me all of my bravery. And I really am grateful to him for that, for sure.
You had wicked cool childhood.
Yeah,
man.
It was all right.
My dad did it. He never did the bus thing with us, which sounds very fucking cool.
It was neato.
Yeah, like totally. Like now I'm sitting there going, how can I apply that to my kid? But
I remember she's 13, but you can do stuff like you can, when she's 15 or 16, like maybe. I used to go camping. Like, I had friends, and when I got a car, we would just I would be, Dad, I'm going camping in Oregon for 2 days, and we would like drive on our own.
What did he say?
Yeah, he was pretty much down with it if he knew the people I was going with.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I almost died once too.
Doing what?
I
asked you before, like, you were like, I've done some crazy shit. I'm all right, how crazy does it get?
I've definitely almost died a couple of times in my life.
Doing what?
Well, once getting so drunk at a party and then not knowing where I was. That was like probably the most terrifying thing that ever happened.
Where was this?
Visiting my grandmother in DC when I was, God, kids are so fucking stupid. Went to a party, just went, and drank too much, and
Your kid,
and
like
yeah,
17,
and I didn't,
20,
yeah, and I'd said, yeah, definitely underage, like 17 maybe, and didn't know the people who I was at the party, and the cops had to bring me home, and yeah, like just terrible. Kids are so dumb.
Yeah.
Ugh, kids are just a ball of dumb with feet, right? But no, we were camping, and it was it was snowing, and we came out of this park. We'd been spelunking, like cave climbing, climbing. So we leave at the end of the weekend, and it's snowing, it's freezing, and I'm in a little European. My first car it's a little red German car, little hatchbacky kind of thing.
Okay.
And come out, and we should have turned left, and we turned right, and we're just going up this mountain and going up this mountain and going up this mountain, and all of a sudden we're in like 6 feet of snow, and the car's stuck, and it's dark. There are no lights. There's no phones. This is before cell phones. We're in a tiny little uninsulated car with a 4-cylinder engine and like very little food. And the park is closed. Like we've gone up a road that's closed essentially. And we couldn't get the car out. And
how many people in the car?
4. And,
who would you have eaten first?
Oh God, they were all so skinny. There was one girl who complained a lot. I would have definitely eaten her. She was one of those people who like, she was literally like, game over, man. She was that fucking person.
She
I was
gave
like,
up.
oh God, it's just going down.
Like Hudson.
Yeah, you're ready to die. So let's go. Let's do this. But then we went and like broke sticks out of trees and like rocked the car back and forth and like pushed it.
You were like a very tame version of Survive.
Yeah.
Where you didn't have to fucking eat somebody's food or something.
Thank God.
But when you say you almost died,
I think
that's the incident. Like, had you guys been there a little longer?
I think that if we had been there, like it was very cold. If we had been up there, the car wasn't the kind of car you could have run for heat. You know what I mean? Wasn't the kind of car, like it was, you know, it had like, you remember old German, like, you know, you remember like a BMW 2002 where like, you know, those rattly glass that the gasket isn't tight. You know what I mean? We would have frozen in that car, I think.
The
overnight.
fact that you use the term gasket means you know more about cars than I do.
You look like a man who knows shit, Kevin.
I know shit I know fucking useless shit. Shit where I'm like, I hope everything maintains this first world status we got. Cause the moment fucking a dystopian society arrives and whatnot, people have to live on their fucking fists and strength. And what can you provide for people? I am fucked. I know this every day of my life. I wake up, I go, thank God I'm alive right now.
Right now, this moment.
Any other time?
I feel that way myself.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? Any other time, man.
I know it. And
it just makes you think like, wow, somebody like years from now, 10, 20, 50 years from now is going to be like, thank God I live in this time. So
Kevin,
it's going to
if
get
you
better.
were living in dystopian future, you'd be the governor because you're a fast talker. You'd be able to seduce people into following you.
I ain't that fucking fast.
You can do it.
I would be the guy going, who should we eat first?
Just from the back. Excuse me. We could make a list.
I know a thing or two about meals, and I hate to be this guy, but I'll be that guy, so I'm not the guy on the plate. What? Okay, so when do you decide, hey, man, I want to be in front of people?
Well, like I went to one of those magnet schools when in high school, and
you were a smart kid.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. Who says that out loud?
Smart.
I was nerdy, very nerdy.
You got the grades.
Very bookish. Definitely had the grades. That was the agreement with my dad. Get the grades.
Did you get straights or are they?
Mixed? I was like an A- student.
No, holy shit.
Yeah, I was like an A- student.
That's
but
why
I was
he got a lot of leeway. He's like, she's smart.
Yeah, I mean, I was a total apple polisher. And, someone said this to me the other day and I, when he said it, it seemed kind of, like brash, but school was easy. It was like, just one of those things that was easy. Like, I'm not saying I was smart, but I'm saying I knew how to do school.
Totally.
Like, I knew how to get it done. It was very simple for me. Yeah. I never, not until I got to college did I ever really struggle. You know what I mean? I just did the work and it got done.
Did you feel impatient? Like, fuck.
Oh, I got in fights with my teachers all the time.
In high school?
Oh, yeah. Like,
because like the impatience of, I know I'm supposed to be doing something and I know this step is necessary, but Jesus is taking so long.
Right. Well, I had I'd worn out the English track at my high school. So I was in senior English, like during maybe sophomore year. And because
you like to write or you
just because my parents didn't believe in TV. So I started reading really early and I never watched television. I mean, I would be like the kid on the bus, like with the Bradbury, like collection, you know, waking up at the turnaround, the bus, like I'd pass my stop like 2 hours before. And I read so much science fiction, Heinlein and Ursula Le Guin. I mean, I was crazy into sci-fi. So I was just
Were you pretty as well?
No. Oh, no. Not attractive at all.
You're pretty now, so how could you not be attractive then?
Drugs. You're high. You're very stoned.
It's not your
no, I was,
I guarantee
so
you,
just
if I
imagine
pull a picture of you in youth, you probably look.
Oh, I have a great picture. I'll show it to you before we go. I was a science fair, Casio calculator watch, giant Urkel glasses.
You're that's a dream girl, man. Like
not back then I wasn't. I was like,
really? If I saw a little girl sitting there reading Bradbury, I'd be like, and even if she was in classes, I was like, holy shit.
I'm going to show you a picture. You're going to die laughing. Urkel with breasts. So,
you sold me. Are you kidding me?
That is not
no sweat, my pet. That's tremendous.
But, so good in school. And then I went to this magnet school. Oh, and in this school, like I went to senior English when I was a sophomore and they would do these tests every week where there'd be a spelling test. And then at the end of the spelling test, each correct answer would have a circle around one of the letters and then you'd get a jumble. And whoever got the jumble fastest would get a prize.
Okay.
So I just won the jumble so many weeks in a row that I was banned from doing the jumble. And so then I would just hold my test up so that the whole row behind me could cheat off of my test.
You were that
I was contemptuous of, authority. And I got in a fight with one of my teachers because whenever I'd ask a question, she would have to look it up in like the study, like the teacher's guide. And I was just like, don't you know anything that's coming out of that fucking book? I was like, I was a little shit. Yeah. Precocious is better.
Language
yeah,
mixed
exactly.
in.
I was just like, it felt like she had a contempt for others. Like she wasn't doing the work. Like, why am I doing the work when you're not doing the work?
Right. And you were just young enough and smart enough to see hey, the street goes both ways.
Right. And you're doing a disservice. You know what I mean? Like, you're being a babysitter when you need to be a teacher. And luckily I did do so well in school that I kind of kept getting a free pass behaviorally because
no teacher ever wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear, hey, dumbass.
Yeah.
You know
Do your job.
Yeah.
One of the kids.
I did this in 4th grade. No one wants to hear that.
You piece of shit.
So, my school had, a magnet arts program. And I, as anyone who's ever been on my show, I will tell you, it's always a boy. So I met this boy who was an actor and I followed him into his improv class and I started doing improv that way. And then
how old were you?
15. And the boy was
You've never thought about performance before?
No, never. I was very interior.
Go ahead. The boy was what?
Sam Rockwell.
The fuck out of here. Is that true?
Yes, it is true.
That's so weird because I was sitting there going, what special boy leads he was a guy who went on to something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, that's nuts. Yeah. So because of him, you wind up going to the acting class.
So I started going to the acting class and then I moved into that program.
Do you like improv?
I love improv. Yeah. I don't know if I'm good at it, but being a stand-up, I feel like
you kind of have to.
Yeah, you get I mean, the guys I really love, the guys that I admired when I was a baby comic, like Mark Mariner, Tom Rhodes, or hi Dougie, were all guys who made it look like they were just making it up on the top. You know what I mean? It always felt like that, even though you knew it wasn't like that. I was always the comedy I wanted to do.
Right.
And
Shecky, we're talking about comedic legends.
So my comedy, even though I have a set, I always try to get up there and make something different happen every time.
Totally play the room.
Yeah. I just want it to feel new to me, so it feels new to people. So yeah, I do like improv.
Hey kids, trustworthy Kev Smith here. Let you know we'll be back in a moment for more of this fine Smodco podcast. But until then, bear with me. I got to pay some bills. Stamps.com. All right. Playing post office had never been more fun. Even when, back in the day, playing post office was kissing, you get together at a party and I got a letter for you, kiss. That's horse shit compared to playing post office with Stamps.com, man. Odds are you're most productive when you're working from your desk. Am I right? I am. I know I am. I chain myself to that desk, start smoking weed in the morning, I just get shit done. So leaving just to go to the post office, man, that's going to slow shit down. That's not productive. That's why you need Stamps.com, man. With Stamps.com, you buy and print official U.S. postage right from your own computer and printer. Can you imagine? This is shit I dreamed about when I was a kid. Oh, if only I could make the stamps. Now you are the fucking stamp maker, man. You go to Stamps.com, you click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, you type in SMOD, man. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to send you a free scale. Can you believe that shit? Nobody sends you something for nothing anymore, man. You're going to be able to automatically calculate the exact postage you need for any letter or package, any class of mail, because you got your own fucking scale thanks to these Stamps.com geniuses, man. You will never waste valuable time going to the post office again. Never run into some sort of a criminally bent super villain of some sort, the postmaster. The one day you choose to go to the fucking post office, is the day that the postmaster has come. That would be the day that the postmaster would strike. But it don't matter, man. Let him strike away if you got Stamps.com, because you don't have to go to the post office anymore, man. I use Stamps.com right here at the house. They use it back in the office in Jersey because it's ingenious. Stamps.com makes you the post office. You don't have to sit around wait for the place to open. You're not beholden to their hours anymore. You are the motherfucking post office. Right now, go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, type in SMOD. You're going to get a no-risk trial, $110 bonus offer, includes that digital scale I was talking up, and $55 in free postage. Don't wait, man. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on that microphone, type in SMOD. It's the future, bitch. Drag your fat ass into it, or your thin ass. I don't want to leave the normies out. Drag yourself into the future by never dragging your ass, thin, fat, or otherwise, to the post office again. Stamps.com. So first you were in the arts program.
Mm-hmm.
How does that lead to you standing up in front of the mic and being like, I'm funny?
I left there, went to Dartmouth, was going to be a lawyer, but did like on the side, did sketch and improv on the side.
All through college?
Yeah. Like I was in one of those infernal singing groups, those intolerable whiff and poofs and the dibble bops and the decibels. I was in a group called the Rockapellas.
I haven't heard anyone fucking reference the whiff and poofs in a good 15 years. Thank you for that.
That's my pleasure. I'm all about the rustic references, rustic East Coast references. And
how did you like Dartmouth? That's what we call it. New Jersey,
yeah,
Dartmouth.
you do. Dartmouth, like the street.
Yeah.
I loved it. You know, I grew up in a really progressive place. When I got in, I was trying to decide where to go to college. My high school counselor said, don't go there. It was a really conservative East Coast school. It was like, you're going to martyr your college career. You're going to be miserable.
Why martyr your college career?
I don't know if you remember this, but at the time, it was when a lot of places and schools were still invested in South Africa. It was like the whole divestiture movement. And there was a big protest at Dartmouth where they built this shanty town. A lot of colleges build shanty towns like on the green. So there was a big shanty town at Dartmouth on the green. And in the middle of the night, these like ultra conservative students destroyed it with sledgehammers and almost killed somebody.
The fuck out of here.
So, so it was it didn't seem like a hospitable place for a young brown girl in Birkenstocks. But,
and yet turned out to
I loved it. You know, I was like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going there, you know, and I loved that I was so different from everybody. I loved being other. I like to be other. I'd been other so much my life than I was what I was used to.
Becomes your badge.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You like to be the one, you know. So.
Now, when you're there, do you make friends that you're still with today?
Oh yeah.
Or
besides
really?
my husband, yeah, for sure. So
I guess your best
Zach,
friend in life.
Yeah,
there's that one.
And then, you know, my best closest friends in life, the ones I spend the most time with, other than my dude, is my grade school friends. So like two of my best friends now. My oldest friend was in my wedding. I was in his wedding. We've known each other since 8th grade.
It's a guy.
It's a guy. Yeah. The girl and guy thing starts to make more sense when you hear about my life. Single dad, motorcycles, video games, best friend's a guy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then, so he's my oldest friend. Him and like one other guy that I knew since 8th grade. I still see them all the time and talk with them all the time. And then there are they're all guys that I've known since then that are still my really close friend. And then I've got like two really close friends from college, 2 or 3 really close friends from college. And then, you know, a couple of friends that I'm very, I know a lot of people, but I don't plus one a lot of, you know what I mean? I don't know, this business, you meet a million people, but it's hard to like really.
I've tried to shrink it. Like over the years, you meet a bunch of people, and then this is what I try to do. Never leave the house now. So then you're meeting all the people that you're like, anybody wants to come over here? I'm like, I'm happy to meet you. But I spend a lot of time with my lady, other than when I'm not doing one of the fucking things that I'm trying to do. I usually spend downstairs in the room with her. And this is going to sound fucking pathetic, but watching Frasier reruns.
That, you know, until you said Frasier, I was with you.
What did you watch?
What did we watch?
By the way, Frasier is just like the last 6 months. Prior to that, you go through phases.
Roseanne
was the longest running one. News radio.
I just love that you're going back so far.
But it's what it is. It's not me going, oh, I've never seen these. I watched them when they aired. I've watched them afterwards. There's something comforting about the familiar.
Yes.
You know,
it's soothing. It is very soothing.
It's like playing music. If you're a music person, you play music over and over, maybe you play one album side to side. Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of thing, the familiarity. And I've also been in more of an output than input stage lately.
So you want to shut down a little bit and just relax.
And honestly, I think it's easier to look at older shit. If I'm going to vacate, I'm ready to create, but if I'm going to vacate, it's tougher to vacate with the new because, and tell me if this hits any nerve for you. I don't want to see something that's going to make me feel competitive or like, fuck, I got up my game because this is where it is now and shit like that. So I love South Park.
Yeah.
And I stopped watching South Park season 2.
Couldn't do it.
Because I was like, if I do this, I'm going to stop what I do because it's painfully clear to me that I'm not in the same league as these gentlemen. So I just and I'm not like, fuck it, I hate South. I love South Park.
Book of Mormon made me feel, it's just a few things make me feel that way. Book of Mormon made me feel puny, intellectually puny.
Yeah.
And also, I say this all the time and I got to stop name checking this motherfucker, but I love watching comedy. And I don't not watch it because I don't want to. It's mainly because I don't have time. Right. And I also don't want to internalize too many people's acts because I hate it if like their stuff is floating through my head.
Right.
But I can't watch Bill Burr because I'm just like, fuck, I wish I wrote that. Fuck, I wish I wrote
really?
that.
He's your guy?
He's so, because other guys you just go, that guy's funny. Right. I'm funny too. We're different funny. We're funny in a different way. that's a guy you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like just
Carlin said that about Kinison. Carlin's in his book. He said the only person that really made him go,
right,
was Sam Kinison when he did his like, you should move to where the food is bit. He was like, that was brilliant, and I should have written that.
Yeah, I should have done that. I should be pushing myself harder. But see, I'm still in the place where I want to watch.
You have to consume them, especially current, because you're on a fucking.
Yeah, but
hey, we're talking about what's happening.
People do that for us, though. Thank God, we just show up and they go, "Here's what's in the news."
But that's why I would love that job because of that.
It would force you to.
Yes,
yeah.
Just like I would be, other than waking up and reading Google News and shit, like I would be forced to ingest more current,
right?
And because it's part of your gig,
right?
So I don't know that I would find appreciative, especially if somebody was like, here, this is what everyone's talking about today. You're like, oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It does put you, I mean, it's not like we're talking about the sequester. Right.
I know.
But it does kind of put you, I mean, the nice thing about our show is that it feels gossipy, but and sometimes we talk a little bit of smack, but it's more about like, here's something that's happening. How does that relate to the way that you see the world?
Right.
So it's like, Kevin Smith stays at home and fills up, empty blunt shits, cigarettes with dope and wears a bathroom all day long. If you could stay home all day, what would you do?
Right.
So that it never is about us beating up on you or lauding you. It's just about like, okay, this is something that happened and
we're presenting
making it personal.
Submitted for your approval. You're like Rod Serling.
Submitted for your approval.
A crew of Rod Serlings.
So in that way, it's nice because it always ends up being about like your own perspective on the world and how you feel about things rather than just like, man, Kevin Smith, next time I see him, he better be wearing a silk smoking jacket, which is really how I want to, I'm going to leave here. You're going to be in red silk. I'm putting you in red silk in my head right now.
I want you to play that character on the talk at all times.
It was not much mouth. It's somebody from the Fat Albert, from the Cosby Kids.
It sounded Fat Albertarian.
It did. Man, you like school in the summertime.
Before we get there, before we get to the talk, before you wind up on TV and shit, when do you make the first step?
Oh, stand up. So
to like, you know what? I'm going to jump up and say something that I think is funny.
So here's what happened. I moved back to the Bay Area.
Right? Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell floated through my periphery. No, I was over him. I was with my husband.
Nobody's ever over Sam Rockwell. Are you sure?
I never will be.
The man is magic.
He is. He's seductive on a planetary level. I was engaged. I was living in San Francisco. I was working. I don't know if people out there know this, but working sucks.
Yeah, it blows.
And I was in a cubicle. Just walls were closing.
What were you doing? What was the job?
I was doing PR it was a good job. I was doing PR for an environmental company. I wanted to do good things. I wanted to be in the nonprofit world. By the way, nonprofit world, you suck too. I know you're trying to do good stuff, but you hug and you talk too fucking much. Go do something with yourselves. I don't need to talk it out with a guy who has nothing to do with what I do in PR. Why does the finance guy need to weigh in on my report? Anyway, I was buried anger. So, and I was just unhappy and I didn't understand why, because I had like a perfect job and I was happy, like everything was good. And I realized it was because I wasn't performing.
How far away were you from getting married at this point? You said you were engaged.
Maybe a year. Maybe I'd just gotten engaged.
Do you think there was a sense of like, fucking marriage is another beast altogether? So let me see if I want to do something now.
It wasn't that. It was like everything was perfect. And so I didn't understand why there was dissatisfaction in my life. And it was just creative dissatisfaction. Like I figured it out. I was like, everything else in my life is working.
But you haven't performed in a bit.
It was the first time in my life I hadn't been performing. I realized that. I said, what's changed? Just this one thing. I haven't been on stage. So how do you feel?
Do you immediately go, oh, I could go take classes? Or do you go, hey, maybe I'll jump up on stage?
Kind of like a problem solver. So I was like, what can I do? And I imagine you thought this way when you made your first film. I was like, what can I do without knowing anybody or having any money? or you know what I mean? And I was like, I can't start a band. I don't play an instrument. I don't want an agent. I don't want to audition for a play. Stand up was a thing I could just go do. And that comes from my dad. My dad's like, let's go do that shit.
But where does the confidence come from to be like, I think I could be fun? It's one thing to be like, arrogance. I know I can stand up on stage in front of people and talk extemporaneously or otherwise. But it's another thing to be like, I know I can do that and pull a fucking giggle out of them at the appropriate moment.
No, I don't know that I knew that, but it was right when the precursor to the Comedy Central network was gone. This network called Ha. Do you remember Ha?
Barely.
It was on for like 9 months, and I was watching a lot of that, and I was watching it, and it was serviceably shitty, and I thought, well, I could do at least
people
that
in front
well.
Of brick walls.
Yeah, brick walls, blazers, a lot of felt blazers.
Did you ever notice kind of shit?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought I could do that, or at least I think I can do that. And I started writing joke ideas down. My husband saw me like writing things. He's
like, are you cheating on me?
He was like, you're keeping notes on all the sex trysts you had. No, he watched me doing that, and he's such a great guy. He bought me a book on like, he didn't know what I was doing, thought I was journaling. So he bought me a book on journaling. He's fucking the greatest. He bought me a book on journaling and he bought me a journal. So I just started writing all these joke ideas down over like 6 or 9 months. And then when I got up the Stones, I said, I want to do stand up. Will you come with me? And we went to this dump of a club called the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco. And
what's it called?
The Holy City Zoo. It's closed. You had to pay to get on stage. I think it was $2 for 3 minutes. And,
That's not bad,
it's not too bad. It's not too shabby, right? And it was first come, first serve. And I'm always tardy. So I was like last. I went like 154. And, you know, it was like a homeless guy, my husband and the bartender. And I got one moderately genuine laugh out of like the 3 minutes. Just one. And that was like, I'm born to do this shit. Do you smell that? Do you smell what's happening in here right now? Do you feel this washing over you? Follow that no one.
You got me excited. It's such an awesome origin story. Let me ask you this. You go up dry? You take a shot before you go?
Sober, definitely sober. I never started drinking really during, like I had a period early in my comedy life where I would drink mainly because it was free. Not because I was nervous, but because
they give it to you
could get, it was free. And I came up poor and I'll never turn out a free comestible of any kind ever. If there's like hors d'oeuvres that are floating back in the kitchen, I will shove them into my pocketbook. So I used to drink a lot because it was free. And then when I moved to LA, I would especially drink because you get your one free drink. And I was so broke, I was living off my credit cards. Right. And it was like calories in there. I would get like the most caloric. I would get like a Midori sour because it was like the highest calorie drink because that was green and viscous. And then what I realized was that I was funnier when I was completely 100% sober, which is just, you know how it is. If you're riffing and you still riff when you're buzzed, but it's a fraction of a second later than if you were sober. Right. It just takes your edge off.
The trade-off, I mean, I'm not a boozer like I don't like this, but stoner I am obviously. And the trade-off there is what you lack in the 1 second, or in the case of stoning, maybe even 2 seconds,
possibly 3
of alacrity, you make up for in, I'm going to go for this one.
Right.
And you will tell the fucking joke or follow a thread that like normally you might not.
You can train for that. So I trained for, I talk about this a lot. Comedians work very hard to break the barrier. There's like a mind-mouth barrier in most people, which is you think, then you think about, then you say.
Right. There's a filter.
Yes. Comedians work very hard to remove the think about and just go from the think to the say.
Pull the filter out.
Absolutely.
So it just drops from brain
from brain to mouth without you thinking, without you considering. And so you can train for that. And you can train for also, you can train all of the shame out of yourself as well. So that you just never ever judge what you're going to say. You just think, I'm going to see if this gets a laugh. That's all that matters.
Right.
All that matters is this going to be funny? It doesn't matter if I'm embarrassed. It doesn't matter if I shame myself or shame others. Is this going to be funny? That is always a litmus test for a comic. And
do you have that line? Will you go to that place?
Yes.
Like there are places I can't go. Like I'm like, you know what? It ain't worth it for the laugh. Like I want to hold on to. I'm too nice a guy. I can't do it. Like every time I see somebody go like this, the motherfucker said this,
right?
Or this motherfucker said this, or this dude fucking said this about the shooting and fucking.
Oh yeah, right.
Every time I see something like that, I'm like, I can't.
Well, I'm going to say something and I'm going to ask you a question because, I'm definitely not a mean comic. I'm very self-deprecating. So most of it is about me telling my own, beat up on myself. And I like to invite the audience in. So we're all on the same side. I'm not a softie, but I just feel like we can all laugh at the same shit. It doesn't have to, I'm not adversarial, but I do understand the math of comedy and like, I don't know how much I want to say about the truth of this, but Onion made a joke during the Oscars about
the little girl,
about Convention Wallace,
and the joke was,
they picked the person who was least likely of everyone on the planet involved with the Oscars to be what they called her. Right. They were like, who here is so sweet and adorable that saying this about her cannot possibly be true under any circumstances? And she just happened to be the person they picked, and people lost their minds. And I remember thinking they shouldn't have done it. Mainly because you just don't make jokes about kids. You just don't make jokes about kids.
Also, it's just like they're much smarter.
They're smarter than that. At the same time, I understood what the math was that got them there, which is we're going to make a joke about someone being a dick.
Right.
Who's the person who's could
the
never
only one on camera, all innocent,
unimpeachable,
happy to be there,
sweetest, most adorable. You know what I mean? It was like calling a toy pony an asshole. You know what I mean? So. I don't apologize for it, and I don't think it was right to do it. I think it was lazy. But I guess my point is, comedy's about bravery. Like great comedy's about bravery.
Right.
You know what I mean? And about being willing to, but it shouldn't be about laziness. So like somebody like not Keith Richards. Why doesn't he? You've watched every episode of Seinfeld 100 times.
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards. When Michael Richards did the thing where he said the N-word a million times. people were saying it was racist. And I said, he wasn't, he's just lazy.
Yeah.
He's not a good comedian. So he wanted to do something shocking, but he didn't have any tools in his tool. He didn't have any tools in his tool belt. So he pulled out the one he had, and it happened to be super offensive. Right. But more than that, he was just bad comedy.
And it was an old tool that
just
inappropriate
tool.
And more like a melon. When you're
exactly.
looking for a tool. You're just like, why did you pull
I'm going to pull out my razor. And he's like, I've pulled out a soft chinchilla blanket. I'm going to fling it at you over and over again.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
It was, I mean, when
but then again, that's the thing. Like, that dude he's
not a stand-up.
Yeah,
no, he's not a stand-up. He's out of his league, out of his depth.
Comic. He was a comedic actor, if I remember.
Shouldn't have been up there, quite honestly. I'll say it. Should have been up there in the first place.
I guess you've done enough time where you can say shit like that. I always defer to comics. Even though I stand on stage, try to be funny, I never consider myself a comic because it takes balls to go up and put together a routine and be like, this is it. I'm living and dying on these 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, 45 minutes, whatever it is. I go up there and go like, somebody ask me a question, and then I'll fucking go for hours. I mean, as much as like a comic relies on the audience to laugh, I can't even get started until, cause I don't have that kind of like, no, I'm not funny. Like I just need somebody to ask me a question and be like,
good in dialogue. Well, when you are funny, everybody I think extemporaneous conversation is the hardest. It's the hardest way to be funny. Because it's new every time, but at the same time, it's much easier for comics. That's why we always like to panel. We always like to sit in the chair and not stay behind the mic. Right. Because in the chair, every time you get a laugh, it's a delight. Right. Oh, look how funny they are, just sitting there being themselves. Right. When you're behind a mic, they're like, you got 3 minutes to break me in half.
That's what would scare me. Yeah. Man. The notion of like, getting up there and they're like, you got this much time. Go.
Right.
It's just, I can't do that. Like it would require me half of the set to get to a punchline. Right. Because it's I got to tell you this anecdote. And it requires branching out to these 3 anecdotes.
Wait, stand by for my PowerPoint presentation.
The first night when you do it 1 a.m. or whatever the fuck, you do your minutes. There's not many people there. You get that one good laugh. You go home with your man.
Yeah.
Was it electric? Did you fuck?
Well,
if I had been
when
dating
have
somebody,
we not?
But I mean, that night especially, I would imagine it's like you just did something fucking huge.
I'm trying to remember.
If I'm him, I'm super turned on. If I'm you, I'm like, I'm a goddess.
I think it was like 3 a.m. by the time we got home, and we probably I passed out with the post adrenaline relief. You know what I mean? Just like, oh, that's over. I do remember
start planning for the next one.
I did remember thinking like, I'm going to do this. This is, and now this is what I'm going to do. The interesting thing about comedy is that the first time is the best set you'll ever have because you have no expectations. No matter how poorly it goes, you have nothing to compare it to. So any laugh is like a gem, right? Like a ruby fell from your lips in your open palm. Right. And then 1,000 sets of you eating shit out of your own hand. And then again, another laugh at the end of that. So, I do remember planning for it. And then I just remember sucking for a really long time.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't suck so badly. Did you go back to the same
place over and over again?
Yeah, I went all over. I drove all over California. I would go to work at 5 a.m, work 9 hours, get in a car, drive 2 hours to do stand up in Sacramento or Fresno or Chico I was dedicated.
How easy is it to book gigs and shit like that?
You work for free. It's very easy.
So you just go and be like, hey, can I do a set?
Like lots of open mics and showcases and begging for time. And
how long are we talking about here?
4 years.
Because everyone listening, of course, is like taking their notes.
I did it for 4 years and then I moved to LA.
Any expectation whatsoever during the 4 years where you're like, I want to be on the Tonight Show.
No.
I want to do this shit.
No, I remember thinking, I just want to be funny. I just want to be funny enough to make a living at this. My expectations changed. The better I did, the better I thought I could do. You know what I mean? So you conquer a goal and then you redefine the scope of what you're going to go after. I mean, there was a period where I was like, I don't care if I'm ever on TV. I don't ever want to be on a sitcom. I remember I literally said to my husband, I don't want to be Jennifer Aniston. I remember when I got on Friends and my husband was like, remember that time?
Well, then you could walk away going, now I can now say for a fact,
I don't want to be Jennifer
Aniston. Before he got to Friends, though, how many steps?
Many steps.
From that first night when you stepped up to the mic to Friends, how long are you talking?
4 years of touring and making no money and kind of loving comedy but hating comedy. Got a comedy tour for a few months, came back and I was like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to move to LA. My husband was going to go to law school, so we decided that was the time to move instead of waiting another 3 years. So we moved here then.
And then he go to law school here?
He went to law school in LA. Yeah. And then several years of,
and this whole time he's just like, keep going.
Yeah. Oh, does
he watch it? Do you make him laugh?
Oh yeah, totally. He doesn't come to my shows anymore, but for years he did. He would come to my shows. He would take notes. He was like a coach, cause he's hard to make laugh. So like if he likes something, he's like, that was a really good one.
That's like manna from heaven.
I destroyed. And then, years of living in a dumpy apartment, getting a cash advance on my credit card to pay my other credit card, that kind of thing. And then I got a deal, and I got a development deal. That was when you could still get development deals.
All that time where you're living hand to mouth, you're just living off of comedy at this point? Or do you have like
I had a day job. I had a day job. I was an advertising executive. And even when I first moved here, my last job in the advertising world, I built a website for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie.
Get out of here.
Yes.
How cute is that? And look at your geek credentials.
Oh my God.
As well.
On a Mac Plus, essentially. It was
Now, when you do that, are you expected to know a shit ton about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or you just start learning?
They give you the window to learn. I was working with Bandai. I worked on that movie. Bandai was developing a set-top box, kind of like a really early version of what's that shitty like internet box you can get like in a hotel room? Box or something, it's like a set-top box, you can get on the internet on your television. Right. And it was priced at like an astronomical, like $500.
Like a web TV.
Yeah, but you couldn't play any games on it. Right. You know what I mean?
Check your internet.
Yeah, exactly. You check your internet, like, big boxy pixels. And, they wanted to sell it at supermarkets. And I remember like spending months researching this category. I mean, like, there's no way someone who shops at Kmart or shops at the fucking Ralph's is going to buy a $500 magical box that will get them on the internet on their television. You people are out of your mind. You need to drop this price down to $100,
right?
Or
it's the dog again. It's not me. I swear.
I'm like, do I have peanut butter on my ankle?
My hands and tongue.
Is it a girl or a boy?
It's a little girl.
She's working very hard to remove whatever salt or residual food item I have on my ankle.
Lady loving ladies.
Wow, it's getting erotic.
You'll notice she's not hitting my feet.
No, she's not, and she's assiduous. I mean, she's really thorough. She's working away all the way around my ankle.
Thank God we're both married, because the use of assiduous just won my heart.
Urkel with breasts and now assiduous.
Oh my God, what a vocabulary as well.
So, I made a big speech. Like I was this like eager little ad executive, and I made this big speech, and it was all these Japanese. I'm sorry, this is going to feel racial, but there were all these Japanese executives in the room, like from Japan, not Japanese American, because they would have listened to me. And, and they were like, "Oh, women," and they just like literally dismissed me out of hand. And that company's out of business.
So you were the right one.
I was right.
Somewhere there's every once in a while they turn on the talk and they're just like,
should have listened to.
Yeah, she was so right.
Should have listened to Black Girl. My accent's clearly that was like a Latino Mexican
It was
guy.
a little bit. It sounded more Selena than anything else. All right, so you get to a place where you get a deal.
Yeah, so I got a development deal. I mean, I was like, it was a time when every comedian was getting like a sitcom. We're getting there, aren't we? Right. Where every comic was getting a sitcom-y thing, and so I got a sitcom deal, and then that didn't go anywhere.
So yeah,
but then I got Talk Soup.
Explain what a deal is to those who are like,
right. So they don't give them out anymore. So I'm describing something that doesn't exist.
It's true.
But
the rest of the time,
yeah.
They did
money was falling out of trees like pussy on Eddie Murphy. So there used to be this deal. Guys like Seinfeld and Ray Romano. You had Drew Carey. These guys shows were built around their act. Paul Reiser. You'd get up and you'd develop 5 to 10 minutes that was like your point of view material about your life and your world. And if someone could see a sitcom in it, you'd get this development deal where they'd pay you. I mean, back in the day,
like a showcase,
$100,000 to keep to hold you for a year while they developed a TV show around you. They put some writers on it. You kind of come up with a concept, and because it was actually my life and also a big part of my act, it was like a lot of romantic comedy iterations of me being married to a white guy.
Right.
So I mean, that was back when there just, there were so few women doing it.
Just missed on that one too.
Yeah. It's all lining up, just not for you.
It's the tall. I got to keep remembering, Kevin, you will never have been tall. You were always big. She's tall. So how long? 1 year?
1 year. They're always a year. So I got that one. And then.
Did you ever shoot anything?
Yeah, shot a pilot. Well, so I got that one and then I got Talk Soup. It didn't go and then I got Talk Soup. So I did Talk Soup for a year and then I left, and then a little after that I did Friends. When I left Friends, Lisa Kudrow had started a production company, so she and I made a pilot together.
What was it about?
It was called My Life Incorporated. I'm really proud of it. So she produced it, but it was me and Richard Kind and Adam Goldberg and not Lucy Punch. Was it Lucy Punch? Not Lucy Punch. There's a different Lucy, the girl who was in the European office. She's brilliant. I can't think. Lucy Davis played my roommate, and Adam played my best friend. And it was about I worked in New York, and then my company gets bought by a big corporation, so I go from working at kind of like a hip downtown little like boutique design firm to working at like a big corporate, like, and the extra, the like under 5 extra was, farts. What's her name? I have a memory of, a Kristen Wiig.
Get out of
a young
here.
Kristen Wiig.
Really?
So she owes me everything, by the way. And it was great. It was my character and Adam's character were like first and third highest testing characters on any pilot at that network that year. And the show still didn't get picked up.
What network was it?
It was at CBS.
And Lisa Kudrow, you met her on Friends?
Mm-hmm. We met on Friends.
I love the comeback.
She's the greatest.
And I love the other thing she's doing
web therapy. She's so great. She's so
fucking
smart.
I was never a Friends person.
Mm-hmm.
Not like an anti-Friends guy, but I just didn't watch the show. But I love her in Romy and Michelle. I dig her. I think she's funny as fuck.
Bananas smart. I mean, she's just like one of the smartest people I've ever worked with.
I was on What's Trending with her a couple weeks ago.
She's great. I've had her on my show, cool. And she's and I loved working with her. Incredibly smart. I mean, you know what this business is like. The longer you're in it, what you realize is you have to make the best thing you've ever made over and over and over again. You can't like make a good one, then make a shitty one. You just have to keep making, this is the best effort. I literally broke a bone making this. It's probably not going to go. I got to get back in there and break another bone making something else. And when you first get in, you just think, how can people not see how incredible this is? And then what you realize is it's just a sea full of just biting, swimming fishes. And, your fish is probably going to get eaten alive, ripped apart by 4 sharks.
You feel special. And then you realize there are so many fucking quote unquote special people out there.
So many.
For as many people that don't try it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that still try it enough to where if you're not staying current or relevant or doing something that matters, you will be forgotten very, very quickly.
Well, and everybody will be forgotten. I mean, it's a machine and it's a planet that turns and shit gets forgotten. And I think that I was having this conversation with someone else on my show that like what I had to realize, what's been good for me. And I think what's kept me engaged this whole time is that it's great to be seen. It's great to make money. I just care about making good shit that at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I made that. Because I feel like if every day you're engaged in making shit you're excited about, eventually someone's going to latch onto it. But in the meantime, every day you're like, oh, today I got up and I made this fucking awesome thing. Right. And, I've made stuff that I'm like, well, no one's ever going to see this, but I'm like so pleased. I'm just so pleased that I made it. I just shot a music video for some friends of mine and it took me forever. I was like, hey guys, look, I want to shoot more stuff. Can I just come shoot you guys while you're on tour? I'll pay my own way. I just give me a pass so I can go backstage. And I just went on tour with them for two dates, shot them all day long. And then it sat on my computer for 6 months because I was slammed, and then I sat down and I cut it together and I was like,
and you're like,
this is so fucking great. Like,
is that how you manage? Cause that's a real big, secret to all of this. If you're going to do as much as Aisha does, you got to balance.
Yeah.
Like a motherfucker.
Yeah, you do.
The familiarity of the story you just told of, poured my all into it, sat on my laptop for 6 months.
Yeah.
Then rediscovered it and fucking brought it home.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can do as many things as possible. It's like your brain kind of goes like periodically people will be like, hey, somebody wants this, your attention on this. Mm-hmm. And there's a block in your brain where you're just like, that's not for another week.
Yeah.
This doesn't exist.
I can't even focus on it now. And when I was younger, I used to do a lot of like, prevaricating and, oh, I'll get it to you. And now I just tell people, I'm not talking to you until this date. And I'm sorry if I'm like an asshole, but that's what I have for you. That's what I have for myself. So this is your window. And then until that happens, like I'm not coming to you. But when you're 25, you're just like, I don't know. I mean, every single thing was the end of the world. Every audition was the audition that was going to make or break me. I have to fly. I remember my husband and I were in Hawaii once for our 5-year anniversary. And my old manager was like, you have to come back for an audition. I'm like, no, I'd be like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, but then you're grab your
this is
shit.
Gonna be exactly, pack it up, set this bitch on fire, And we like used all our miles we'd accumulated over 4 years of commuting to college and they were just gone in an instant. So I could fly back and audition for like Magic Johnson's comedy roundup at the fucking Starbucks. I mean, something of absolute no value whatsoever. Right. But I also think,
there's a love story in there because there's a dude who's like, okay.
Yeah, every time.
Let's jump on the plane.
He's
and
a
go
monster.
Back.
He's a giant. And the last thing I'm saying about that is I think that you see it when I was younger, I used to be like, why does, this writer only turn out one book every decade? Or why does this filmmaker only make one movie every 7 years or 10 years? What's wrong with them?
Right.
If I was I'd be making a movie every 18 months, every 3 years. And what you realize is if every effort is going to be your best effort,
can't do
that. It takes the time it takes.
Yeah.
It takes the time it takes. And you want to build a body of work that you're going to look back on and be proud of. And so you just can't be cranking. It's all got to be something that's in you. You know,
that's why I stopped. That's why I stepped off of the filmmaking.
I'm going to ask you on my show.
You will. You know what? We should do that.
Let's do that now.
We're going to head over to Aisha's show, man, Girl on Guy, and continue our discussion. And over there, your audience is going to be bored to tears because I still want to talk about the show that you're on now.
Yeah, I never talk about myself on my show. So
really?
They don't ever hear. No, I never talk about myself on my show.
What do? You talk about the other person?
I listen to the other person. Sometimes I interject stories about my childhood, but I never talk about current shit. So we'll
continue this over there. All right, man. So follow us over. You're hearing this on what day does your show go on?
Tuesday. What's Tuesday?
We go up Tuesday as well.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I was thinking Sunday before, so it'll literally
be a crossover.
That's kind of dope. So when you're done listening to this, just pop over and download Girl on Guy and you'll hear the rest of the discussion.
Woo.
Right on, man. All right. We'll see you over there. But until then, give it up. Give it up for my amazing fucking co-host, Scott Mosier. Going to have a hard time slipping in that chair, man.
I bet you the dog's not going to like your ankles.
Urkel with tits, he is not. At all. All right, but thank you for being here, man.
It was my pleasure.
And I'll go over your show now.
Yay.
Guy on Girl is done. Now we go Girl on Guy. Shecky, shut the fuck up. I'm rapping. That's going to be Smodcast for this week, man. I'm Kevin Smith.
Aisha Tyler.
Have a week. All right, you take it.
Yeah, sweet. So we just jump in and then I cut in a bunch of shit later.
Cool.
So we were just talking on well, for people who don't know, if you haven't already listened to Kevin's show on Smodcast, you go listen to his show. That's the first part of the conversation where we're doing a
crossover.
It's so exciting. It's a crossover.
This is like when fucking when Arnold went to the Facts of Life school,
or for something that people have actually seen in this lifetime, when the guys from CSI Vegas went to New York.
I guess you're current, man. Stop showing off your current dick, which is way bigger than mine. I have a little current dick.
It's not bigger. It's just more modern. It's more streamlined.
It's cut. Mine's all saggy.
Mine's been circumcised. Yours is old-fashioned, vintage
cheesy,
vintage
man.
dick. Oh, well, wash it, please. So, we were talking about like generating. Like the first question I had for you when I was going to build up to it, but since we've been talking for an hour, let's just get into it. You said you stopped making films, and I feel like that was circulating in the ether. Like Kevin has stopped making movies, but I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was like saying that Santa Claus wasn't going to bring presents anymore. So what? Why? Who?
It was exactly what you were talking about. And it feels like we just literally were finishing the conversation. People had to make a jump to this podcast. But continuing that thought, you got to break a bone each time. You got to barf up a fucking lung. I know there's some people that sit there and go like, dude, you didn't barf up a lung on insert movie here, Cop Out, Jersey Girl, whatever the fuck. But it's untrue. Whatever I did, I always poured everything into, man. But you can't do that over and over again on an empty tank. Like,
no.
Everything that I had experienced in my life up until the moment I was like, okay, it's time to make Clerks.
Right.
Fed me for a long fucking time, but eventually the tank gets empty because you go from being somebody who's ingesting the world to somebody who's outputting and trying to create shit. And so part of that, the ingestion just stops as it becomes all about output. And, you know, you're not, when you pull your head up, you're like, where am I?
Right.
Fuck. I mean, everyone's over there and stuff like that. Because you're so busy going like, I've got this moment in time. Like when Clerks happened, man, you know, I knew what I wanted to do next because I was like, just in case anything cool ever happens.
Right. Well, you spent every moment up to Clerks fantasizing about everything that would happen after, when Clerks happened and after, right?
It was small, dude. Yeah. Like I was on What's Trending last week, and Bernie, that dude who does Red versus Blue. Online, he was on, and he was talking about like how they put together these machinima videos and shit. And like these cats, this generation, these YouTubers and the kids who are making flicks now are the true independents. We were the ones that were like, we're fucking independent film, man. We're independent. Fuck you. We don't need your money. We'll fucking do it ourselves. Until we were done. Then we're like, can you buy this?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we need your money.
Yeah, we need the money.
And then you're not independent. You're part of the fucking machine. This generation of creators has gone like, look, we're not even going to go hand in hand.
Ever.
There's no need. They don't need to go to a network or a film studio and be like, can I have? They'll figure it out themselves.
Well, and the guys like the Red versus Blue, or any of these guys like Tobuscus and these guys that are making these things, some of these guys are pulling out $1 million a year in revenue.
William Johnson, man.
Just on and I'm not judging any. I think Red versus Blue actually they're beautifully produced. Toby Turner, who I think is an adorable guy and I love what he does. I mean, this is not elevated filmmaking. You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter. That's the thing. It's like, and if you think about the indie film movement in the late '80s, early '90s, it was also people going, this isn't elevated cinema, because
Right.
it
It's
all
just
looked
about
like
story.
shit. It was about
Yeah.
the content.
Yeah.
And once again, the generation that watched that shit go, oh, it is about the content. So you can sit there and go, like, I'm going to play a video game and put voices in it. And that's going to become something real,
Right.
legitimate.
Right.
Like, in a world where people go, like, I don't get it. Anybody can do that. It's like, well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the point. But we did it first.
Yeah.
And now others will kind of follow. And so when you fucking play it all out, I mean, no matter what you do, you put everything into it. You get to a point where you're tapped.
Yeah,
You
where
know?
you're tapped, and I think also if you have any level of any level of success, where you're able to sit back and examine what you've put out there, and you're not in that period of abject panic that most of us are in for a good part of our career, which is like, I got to keep working
Right.
for fear of obsolescence or also starvation.
Right.
Where you get to the point where you can say, I don't want to do those things. If you don't have a story in you, then why put yourself through it? Why make some shit other people want you to make that, because if you can't get a boner for your own shit, how are you going to get a boner for like this other piece of crap that somebody brought you?
Bingo.
Yeah.
I looked at it like this, man. Like, at the end of the day, all I am are the stories that I got. Like, that's my only currency in this life. And film afforded me that, a voice, gave me a platform, let me fucking not be a guy to work with his hands for a living. Film has given me everything that I have in this life at this point. I met my beautiful wife because she interviewed me, because I made a fucking dopey movie or two. I got a kid with her because I made those movies and stuff. I live in a beautiful fucking house that I bought from Ben Affleck because all this shit because of the movies. And because of film. And the love of film happened when I saw Slacker and said, oh my God, like, this is possible.
Right.
Like, you could just tell a story, and you don't have to be from New York or LA, and it doesn't have to have famous people, and it doesn't need 3 acts. And
Right,
this is a
right.
movie that doesn't even have the same character. You're just training a character every sequence.
Right.
And it's just fascinating to me. And this dude, I wasn't very, I didn't go to Dartmouth. So, so when I saw that it was like Slacker is made in Austin, Texas, I was like, this guy didn't make his movie in New York
Hollywood.
or Hollywood. He made it in Bumblefuck, Nowheresville, Texas. Austin, of course, is the capital of
Not
Texas.
so bumbly, but
Not
still.
bumbly, and arts capital as well. But had I known that, I never would have tried it, because I would have been
Right.
like, oh, well, of course, he lives in Austin. Like, Austin would have become a touchstone like New York or LA.
Right.
So I see that movie and I go, that empowers me. It makes me go, and then it always sounds shitty, and I don't mean it this way. I saw Slacker and said, shit, if this counts, I want to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
not like me going, that movie sucked. That's me going, this was a dude from nowhere who didn't wait for a go sign or a handout. He wasn't born into the business. He has no movie stars.
Right.
He's a guy, as far as I could tell, because we didn't have the internet then. I read an
couple
article in the
articles,
Village
yeah.
Voice or something like that. As far as I could tell, he was a guy not all that dissimilar from me. And if he could do it, why couldn't I do
I
it?
don't even think you have to apologize for the hubris that is required to undertake the massive effort that is needed to make a film.
You need it's anything to get up in front of people and say, here's what I think,
Yes.
here's what I do. It requires, I've always felt, a mixture of what I call a responsible, what is the term I always use?
This is why
I've smoked it away.
this is you smoked it. Poof.
A reasonable amount
Yes.
of unreasonability.
Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
It's unreasonable to be like, oh, I'm going to
Make a movie.
Or people are going to give a shit about
Yes.
what I say or
Yes.
think or something like that.
Yeah.
So a healthy, never be unreasonable to the point of, I'm going to leap off the roof and
Irrational.
fly.
Yeah.
That's irrationality. But you can be unreasonable. You have to be to make some art.
Yeah.
Because it requires unreasonability.
There's duality there too, because I feel like you need to be. I don't want to use the word egotistical, so let's just say to have the hubris to that drives bravery, right? That I've got something important to say and people need to see it. But the other side that you need is the idea that's like, if I'm going to put this much energy into something, I've got to make it great. It can't be a layup. It's got to be
Right.
something I really invest my time and energy to.
You want to be through the door first.
Yes.
I love comic book movies, and I'll watch them from now until the end of time. People are like, you love comic books, you should make a fucking comic book movie. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't, because I love watching them and talking about them, but I've never had an interest in making one. Like,
Right.
that's a specialized art. And not for nothing, but we don't need one more guy telling one more story about one more guy whose fucking parents got killed, and he's so mad at the world he's got to put on a mask and beat up bad guys. Like, anybody can tell that
Right.
story, and people with far more talent than I can make a really fucking beautiful version of that,
Although
like
I feel
Nolan
like-
on The Dark Knight. But I don't.
I feel like
wanna make that.
Kick-Ass is in your constellation.
But I wouldn't have done it. Like when I
Yeah.
saw Kick-Ass, like I could sit there and go, oh, I would have trimmed that or I would have changed that, but
Yeah.
that never would have occurred.
because
to
you
me.
never wanted, you like, yeah, like on its whole, it's not the story that would have.
Like there was
fallen
one
into it.
moment in time before we made Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where I was like, hey man, maybe it'd be fun to do a whole Blunt Man and Chronic movie with him and I running around, Jason Mewes running around
Yeah.
in costume and
Yeah.
fucking doing superhero shtick. And then I was like, you know what? That'll be a tiny sequence in the middle of a movie.
Yeah,
rather.
rather than an entire.
But I loved film so much. It fucking gave me everything. It was The Lady in the Lake, man. It was The Giving Tree. I think
Yeah.
about that Shel Silverstein book. Always made me cry when I was a kid. And the kid who keeps coming back to the tree and like, I fucking need this. I need this.
I need. Then the tree is given everything.
Everything. And at the
Everything,
end, there's
the
nothing
trees,
left. He even
nothing.
cuts the tree down, makes a boat, get
What
the
a-
fucking
what a
away from
dick.
the world. Oh, this guy's the worst, the biggest mooch on the planet, the worst boyfriend anybody's ever had. And then one day he arrives old and he's like, you know, the tree's like, I can't give you, I don't have anything left to give you. I've given you everything I have. And the guy's like, well, I just need to sit down. So he sits on the stump and shit like that. I always felt that film was kind of like that. It was like The Giving Tree. Everything I got from it. And then one day I realized that I was using it like an ATM, like it was what paid my bills. And I wasn't making a film because I was like, if I don't tell this story, I'm going to fucking die. I was like, if I don't tell this story, well, I don't pay my bills. And if I don't tell it, I'll tell another story because this is what I do for a living and people give me money to make pretend. You become acclimated to it, comfortable with it, and suddenly the love of your life becomes this horror that you're just like, trick me out, man. And not even the horror that you're like, I'm paying her money to use myself. I'm like, go out and earn for me.
Yeah.
I'm a pimp at that point. And I didn't start as a guy who's like, I'm going to sell my fucking art. Yes, of course, I want to sell my art and live commercially in a way where I don't have to work with my hands for a living. But I don't want to get on a treadmill where it's like, I got to make some fucking art quick to pay my fucking bills.
Right.
That was never part of the plan. And when you get deep into a life that you didn't ever see coming, this wasn't planned. I just wanted to make Clerks. I was like that Bernie guy. I wanted to make something and maybe somebody would see it and maybe in the future, next time around, they'd give me money to make something else so I didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
So all of this is like, what the fuck? So it went very, very well. But at the same time, like, you know, you become maybe not, it's not so much I'm accustomed to a certain lifestyle, but like you're going to live out in Los Angeles, man. You got to be earning on the regular basis. It's one of the most expensive fucking places on
Also,
earth.
you come to a point in your life where you're accustomed to living a certain way.
And then you had a kid and fucking
brutal.
mouths and shit like that. And suddenly you're like, all right, man, I got to fucking pay bills with my art. And before it was the luxury of, I'm going to make some art and sell my art. And now it's like, well, you better go to work because that's what you do. And I had to unplug from that because I was like, fuck it, I'm treating it like an ATM. Like that thing I love more than anything in the world was being corrupted by a base need of like, I have to survive. So I was like, unplug and figure out anything else. Like it became, movie money became heroin where it's just like, I can't put it down.
Right.
And I was like, break the chain and figure out how to put it down because one day, because we're also talking about like, it was right after the economy started
I was going to say, what was the moment though? Like, was there like a
Zack and Miri was the moment for me where I was like, fuck, shit's not fun anymore.
during the film or
yeah,
after?
making the movie. And I loved making the movie. It wasn't
loved
like
that
there was,
movie.
I love it too. It wasn't like anybody was shitty on it or something like that. But Clerks 2 always felt like the last good time where everybody was in it for the fucking love and shit like that. And that to me is when you're at your best. If you look at any of my shit I've done, the ones you tend to like the most are the ones I had the least money to do. So they're made with the most fucking heart, passion, all that shit.
Right.
Zack and Miri is a movie that's made with a healthy $25-30 million budget and shit like that. Everyone got paid you know, very well and shit. So, and if there was ever a problem, you know, you just threw money at it to solve the problem.
Right.
And so I look at Zack and Miri and I dig it. I think it's very funny, and I don't mean to put it down or diss it by any stretch of the imagination, but it's Kevin Smith doing Judd Apatow doing Kevin Smith. It's Kevin Smith going, oh, the shit I used to do is fucking popular? Well, I could do this in my fucking sleep.
Yeah.
And you know, that's not true. I mean, look, maybe I can do it in my sleep, but like there's different circumstances. When you've got Universal behind you, they know how to fucking open comedy.
Right.
I was at a place, maybe not so much. And I'm not saying like it was their fucking fault. Like Title was kind of difficult to get on TV. We found later on, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of reasons. And also, you know, some people tell you it's just not as good as a fucking Judd Apatow movie for whatever reason. The movie didn't connect in the way that we were kind of hoping at the box office.
Right.
But even before that, when we were making the flick, I was just like, you know, I'm glad everyone's getting paid and shit, but like, and I was getting paid. Don't get me wrong. I was getting paid fucking healthy. It's the most I ever got paid to make a movie. But there's something about, you got to be uncomfortable to make art, man.
Right.
It's like we were talking about being a stand-up. It's like you got to be willing to go to that place where you're like, I'm just going for the fucking laugh.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, it may hurt your feelings. It may ultimately fucking tarnish my soul, but like in the moment, there's one goal and one goal only.
Yeah.
Same thing with anything else or with that.
Well, and to transcend too, it's like, you know, this is not a new idea, but you know, the idea that if you didn't offend someone, if in a comedy play, if you didn't offend someone in the room, you didn't do your job, right? You're not there to break people, but you're there to tell the truth, right? And if you don't feel the kind of the urgency that will make you say what needs to be said or do what needs to be done, you don't have that urgency. It's hard to do something impactful. You know, everyone can go, eh. I mean, you know, I say like, if everybody liked it, if everybody liked it, right. You know what I mean? What you want is to polarize the shit out of the room. 50% loved you, 50% hated you, but everybody was talking about it.
Right.
If you get to the point where you're like, you know, or if you feel, you know what I mean? Then, I mean,
You get to a point where you look at it and you're just like, well, did the kid who saw Slacker in the Angelica Cinema at age 21 on his 21st birthday, that magical August 2nd, 1991, when fucking lightning struck and suddenly Shazam, I was Captain Marvel because I was like, I have an idea. I want to do something. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. That kid never foresaw Jersey Girl.
Yeah.
He never foresaw Zack and Miri make a porno. Like, there was something I didn't realize until later on. I didn't like making movies because it was like, oh shit, like I get paid money, or I like now we're fucking famous, or we can do what we want, or I don't have to go to my Aunt fucking Barbara's house if I don't want to, or any of those reasons. Like, really, at the end of the day, it was being through the door first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I could never be a fireman, but there's something about the aspect of going through the door first. That's and yet, like, whenever I talk to cops and they're like, hey man, you gotta go through the door first, like on the job, I'm like, Jesus, that's why I'll never be a cop, because there are bullets on the other side of your door.
Exactly.
But like, doing something first, that's what meant something. So like, when you're like, and I'm not saying I'm a fucking trailblazer, but I did blaze a path, and it's tough to then just follow a fucking path.
Right.
Like, you yearn to be fucking like, you know, like there's a scene, I always refer to it, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where they're auditioning to protect the train from train robbers and shit. And so the guy's like, I got to see you shoot, hit that can. And so Sundance has his gun out, and he's not allowed to draw, and he's just firing. He can't hit the can. The guy goes, you're terrible. He starts walking away, and he's like, can I move? And he goes, what? And he goes, can I move? And he goes, I guess. And so he draws and fucking just hits the can multiple times and shit like that. When there are even the constraints of freedom, and this sounds like such a first world fucking thing to say, but even the constraints of freedom, you know, are constraints. Like, you can't move.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean,
you ought to know, you're on fucking network television.
And I mean, there are some literal specific changes that happen in success that. And myself out of the equation, filmmaking. When you're making a movie for no money, everybody leaves you alone. I don't know if you heard the story. It's one of my favorite stories. It's Sonnenberg, Barry Sonnenberg, directed Men in Black.
Barry Sonnenfeld.
Sonnenfeld. Whoa, sorry about that. All people whose names are either Sonnenfeld or Sonnenberg. So Barry Sonnenfeld is making the first Men in Black, and it's like, it's not a tiny movie, but it's not a huge new movie considering who's in it. It's Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, and it's I think it's Fox.
Probably the lowest of all the budgets.
Yeah, right. Maybe it was like 18, 20. Maybe let's say it was even 30.
It was healthier. I think
30,
it was probably
right?
50 because it still had Steven Spielberg's name behind it. No movie gets made for fucking less than 50.
I'm gonna say for the purposes of the story, 30, 35.
Okay.
Because I feel
Don't
like
lie
I feel
to
like
your audience. It's not it. It was higher.
They don't know how to use the internet. So they make the movie and like relatively.
They made this movie for $28,000, kids.
Sonnenfeld maxed out his credit cards. Will Smith emptied his pockets, and most of the money was in his pockets, so he just paid for it out of what was in his jacket pockets. So they make the movie, you know, relatively unimpeded, and it's this massive hit, right? And kind of a surprise hit. Like, I think it almost felt like it was going to be this little cult kind of side movie. It wasn't based on
a comic book that was all that popular.
No one knew it.
And it was from a small comic
and no one was
imprint.
doing comic book adaptations at the time other than Superman. There wasn't this like
comics had died because Batman and Robin, I believe, had happened. Like, Joel Schumacher had great success with Batman Forever. Batman, the Tim Burton one, did well. Batman Returns did less well. They bring on Joel Schumacher. Batman Forever does very well, has Jim Carrey at the height of his powers.
Right, that's right.
Then the next one is Batman and Robin, and it makes like 100, and everyone decides comic book movies are over, except for Men in Black, but even before them, Blade.
Oh yeah, Blade. But
New
see,
Line and
again,
Blade brought the comic book movie
under the radar, right? But
very under the radar. Nobody was going like the comic book movie's back,
right? And the reason that Blade worked and continued to work is it would never cost a lot of money to make. So they had a beautiful, perfect business model there. Make your movie for $8 million, $10 million, $18 million. It makes $50 million. You win. You're a winner every fucking time.
Totally.
Every time. Sell it overseas.
And they did the smart thing. They had a guy who was already a movie star,
right?
But like who didn't have.
But nobody wanted to work with him.
Franchise.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
That maybe as well.
That too. And he was building some kind of a crazy race army in Utah. So I'm
never quite sure what happened with
nobody
that story.
knows. He doesn't even know. So so they make this movie and obviously it's explosively popular, right? Then they go back to make the second one, and now all hands are on deck. Every person with a suit and a tie is like hovering around craft services,
and all hands are out too.
Yeah, everybody's got a fucking
coming back
idea.
unless I get fucking paid.
So then it goes from being $50 million to being like a $120 million movie, right?
I think even more.
And,
the second one was 200.
See that? God, I'm glad. I love to make shit up, and you're checking me, and on my own show.
I remember it being way.
I guarantee you, your film foo is better than my film foo. So he tells this story about he has a heart attack on set. Sonnenfeld.
Barry does.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's in the back of, and it's not apocrypha, but I might not be telling this perfectly, but I heard it on Fresh Air. He's in the back of the ambulance. He's awake, but he's had this heart attack and he's like strapped to the gurney, and he's like essentially like thinking, I could die. I might die.
Right.
What does that mean? And they're pulling him from set. It's not like he had it at home. They took
Right.
him out of
He was
Video
coming
Village,
off
right?
the fucking-
Exactly.
off
You know
the
what
Men
I
in
mean?
Black 2
Exactly.
set.
He just marked a take and they put him in the back of the ambulance. So he's thinking like, what does this mean? He goes, well, if I live, I'll be able to raise my kids, see my daughter get married, go to college with my wife, and I have this life. He goes, but if I die, I won't have to finish this film. And he goes, and pretty much it would have been fine either way.
Holy crap.
And yet
he went back for
Of course
3.
he did. Of course. Well, because of the money. You know what I mean? And how can you not? I mean, it's a trap. The thing is, it's a trap. And every time you hear a story like that, or you hear a story about Coppola trying to break his own leg to get off of his own movie,
right.
You understand that the more success you have, the more people are watching, the more people want something. You're not really making your own film.
Yeah.
Or you're locked in a death battle with the people around you every day. You're fighting about everything, every fucking thing. I had a call today with someone where I was like, I didn't call you to fight. I'm not interested in fighting with you. And I definitely am not interested in making shit that results in me having to fight with people.
And plus, who has the fucking time?
Or the energy, and who gives a
and
fuck?
And that's the thing. When you multitask like you do and like I do, there's just no time for a fucking argument. And you're not like, you tend not to, I'm not, certainly not short with people, but there are situations. I came up here again. This sounds all like first world problems, but
well, he walked up here, and with swans were carrying his slippers. He was sipping out of a giant bottle of Cristal that was being held by P Diddy. By the way, it was P Diddy's been on hard times. He's working here.
I came up here yesterday to I'd said, and then his tale's told out of school. I won't even say what it is, but I'd done this thing for somebody where they interview you and stuff, and then it had not, just talking about an old movie as per usual. Then somebody's like, hey, can you do this additional thing? And you're like, yeah, okay. Then the additional thing turns out to be like a fucking circus.
Like,
with a
eat your life. With a script?
Where I was just like...
Or they handed you some lines to say?
Yeah.
Oh, no, goodbye.
So I was just like, I'm of an age now where I'm just like, look,
no.
I know nobody in this room is responsible for this, but... I just said I was doing somebody a favor. Like, I don't have stock in this company, so why am I being handed a script? And so how about we do this once, and that's it?
Yeah,
and
that
like, we
is
need
actually...
2 sizes. And I'm like,
oh,
well,
no, you don't.
Aren't you happy you're getting one?
You know what Final Cut Pro can do for you? Make you lots of sizes.
And you feel shitty because you're just like, again, the 21-year-old sitting in that theater. If somebody sat down next to him and said, you're going to be fucking the guy that's just like, you'll get one take and I'm out of here. But in that moment, it's like, look, I didn't sign on for this.
No,
I signed on to be like, hey, this is a cool thing.
I'm not a commodity. Like, if you need, if you need something from me, you can ask for it. But I'm not here to just kind of be done with what you will. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
And then also it's like, and look, my love's for sale, man. If it's something I'm into, like I just shot a commercial for this fucking video game that I absolutely loved. And what I loved even more is the commercial has me and Jay in it. So I'm like, oh, it's a game I play. It's fucking. I get to make a commercial with him.
What game is it?
It's Injustice.
Ooh, I don't know it.
Oh my god!
Is it great?
Injustice: Gods Among Us. It is fucking phenomenal.
You played? Is it like a new? Is it like a set?
You
Like
play
two?
PS3. You can play.
Is it great?
Xbox.
Okay.
It is fucking phenomenal. But essentially, it's by
shooter?
the folks that made Mortal Kombat.
Oh, okay, fun.
And what they did was there's been DC games before where you could fight as Batman and shit like that within the Batman world, or Batman versus a fucking Mortal Kombat guy. This is the first time you could fight within the DC universe. So heroes fight heroes, villains fight villains, vice versa.
How fun.
But the graphics are fucking awesome, and they did this like this is what sold me, man. They showed me the Aquaman video. I was like, I'm fucking in. Aquaman's special power, because everybody's got to fucking hit the two buttons at the
Aquaman's
right
special
time.
power is calling dolphins.
You would think, because he's always getting a hard time on the internet. He's like, he's useless. He's fucking fish star.
Makes bubbles.
This game found a way to fucking badass him up, man. His special powers, you hit his two buttons at the right time and shit, and you use his fucking... What happens is you're fighting him, and again, it's like a Mortal Kombat thing. So let's say you're Flash and I'm Aquaman.
Okay. So I'm running circles around you. That's
You're
all Flash
and you are,
can do.
and
Just
you're
running a circle around you.
And you're hitting me hard.
Okay,
as you
I'm
boom,
giving you some
boom.
lever shots. All right.
I catch you. I use my superpower. They zoom in on you, and you fucking see him like call it in or whatever. A gigantic, and this is the animation on it, a gigantic tidal wave containing boats and fish and fucking whales swamp you. Aquaman picks you up with a trident and holds you up underwater, and you see this gigantic great white shark come out of nowhere and fucking eat you.
That's brilliant.
Right then and there, I was just like, I got to rethink Aquaman.
That was like three things at once. That
It's
was
fantastic.
so great.
Every one of the fucking heroes and villains has
I thought he
their
just
little
like a
special
ball of
move.
water.
You would
he
think.
holds it over your face.
He whips some goldfish at you. It was astounding.
He smashes your face in a chest of doubloons.
So I don't mind fucking selling it, man. I'm happy to fucking go out and horror for something. I'm like, I love this. I play this. Look, I'm going to talk about it for free anyway. I might as well get paid to shoot a commercial. But this other thing was just like,
too easy.
You want me to fucking like,
too easy.
If you want me to sell your product, can I have a piece of your company?
Send me an email.
Yeah,
send
because
me an email.
when y'all get rich, I'll just be the fucking guy who got you there.
Well, I feel like you become you lose your independence by virtue of your success.
A little bit.
Yeah, and so that I understand where you look around and you say, my time is not my own, my ideas are not my own. I'm beholden to people that I don't necessarily want to be beholden to, or I'm beholden to an idea of who I am that people expect. I mean, without putting too fine a point at it or insulting the shit out of you, I feel like some of the films of yours that I enjoyed most. I actually really love Zack and Mary. Like Dogma was one of my favorite movies of yours. One of my favorite movies, period. And what I loved about it was I think it was a time in your career where you were making these big, sprawling, big idea movies. Like you were putting, like I feel like Dogma was
29.
There was a million ideas in that movie. You know what I mean? And
a million ideas for $10 million. Like that movie was the only movie I've ever made where it was more ambitious than its budget. Normally, I just have people sitting around talking to each other, so that kind of shit is cheap to shoot. And always variations on that. It's just the actors getting paid more or you getting paid more.
Right.
But in Dogma, that was a movie that really could have used. Everyone did it for fucking scale, no fucking money and shit like that. I didn't get paid much at all. All the money that we spent is
it's in the
really
movie.
up there
it's in
on
the
the
movie,
screen. And it still needed at least double that. Because it is. It's like heaven, hell, angels, fucking big ideas.
But to me, the ideas were what made the movie so exciting. Yeah. So electric to watch, so energizing. And I feel, again, like it's harder the more successful you are to make a movie that ambitious. Yeah. Then people want you, just narrow it down to, to pare it down. And here's the first act or second act. And everyone likes someone to kiss at the end. You know what I mean? Like, totally. And even if you're thinking, let's make it ugly, let's make it a little dirty, let's make it a little no, we're spending this much money now, Kevin, and big movie
it's a different business altogether, and what I don't know how else to say this, what they're looking for, I'm not interested in making. They want to make comic book movies, dude, like and that's weird for me to say, like I love comic book movies, I just have no, like, and again, I don't mean this as a diss, but anybody could fucking do that. Right. If I'm going to do something, I want to do something that nobody could fucking do. Like, that's my only currency in this life, is I can make a Kevin Smith movie and nobody else can. I've seen many people try.
Right.
I've seen people appropriate it, change it, turn it into something way more profitable and better. But nobody can fucking make a Kevin Smith movie, and that to me is like I'd rather do that, even if I'm doing it for no money or if I'm doing it for somebody's giving me a comfortable budget. I would rather if I'm going to go up to bat again, it's going to be me. It's going to be fucking something nobody else can do. But to go up to bat with something that, and again, it's how you present it. It's putting another spoke in the wheel, however you want to say it. But to go up to bat with the same fucking thing that anybody else can do, it's like, why bother?
2 questions.
Fire.
Question 1 is pedestrian and mundane. You probably already talked about it, but what about Avengers? How did you feel about Avengers?
I loved Avengers.
That was the first superhero movie I saw where I was like, this feels big and new. It hit all the points it needed to hit for what they spent and who it was.
Yeah.
But it was the first time I was like, so funny, so much smarter,
I
surprising.
loved it. It was, I saw it on, I was in Australia. We were doing a Jay and Silent Bob Get Old tour in Australia, and we had done a show that night, and then it was opening in Australia a week before the U.S. So we were like, fuck, we can go see the Avengers tonight. Yeah. So we all went out and saw the show midnight, like it's Thursday opening, whatever the fuck. And the first scene in that movie is that fucking Loki Pokey stick where it gets the fucking Tetsu dude's chest, and all of a sudden he's like, you're a bad guy. Pew, pew. And maybe it was because it was midnight. Maybe because I was like, this is the level of discourse we're looking at. Like, you know, we'd come off of fucking, like, Iron Man was real smart, and all the Marvel movies had been kind of fucking smart and plausible in a weird way.
Yeah.
And suddenly, right off the bat, we got a guy making bad guys.
There was also there was like some early bad face acting. Like that first 3 minutes, bad face acting on making evil face.
Yes.
It was challenging.
Honestly, it was a tough opening few minutes. That being said, it colored the rest of the movie for me a little bit. And I didn't end it going, I fucking didn't like this. I was just like, yeah, Hulk was cool. The next time I saw it, though, I was completely different. Like, I was like, you know what? I mean, I guess I'd had a discussion with Scott Mosier. He's like, dude, you'll buy the fucking, I'm so mad I turned into a monster, but you won't buy the magic stick. Yeah. And I was like, all right, fair
I'm so angry I grew 3 feet.
But that was the comic nerd in me where I was like, dude, that's science. Like Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk is science. This is a magic stick. Yeah. It's like one is based on the Marvel science. So I watched it the next time without that bias of like, oh, the fucking stick. It still bristles for me, but I was like, whatever. But the movie is wonderful in such a way that I was looking forward to Dark Knight Rises all summer. Like that was the fucking movie to be. Yeah. And this one really snuck in and fucking.
Dark Knight did not do it for me after Avengers at all.
It
was too joyless.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. A Chris Nolan Batman movie, and he likes to make it joyless. And
joyless.
It's not the Avengers. That's the thing. It's like I remember going into the summer. And once I saw the Avengers trailer for like right before release, I was like, fuck, man. Like, I think the Avengers could make more money than Dark Knight Rises because this is the 3rd iteration of Batman. Right. And the third iteration in 20 years. Right. So we've all seen Batman, and this time
we've seen Batman fall and rise and fall and rise and fall and rise
over and over, like the fucking sun and moon themselves. And we've never seen Bane before, but not enough people knew him to give a shit.
Nobody knows who Bane is.
And there was no magical fucking Heath Ledger over the top Joker performance and the mythos of he died or any of that stuff. With Avengers, once that billboard went up on Sunset, where it was like, look at all these famous fuckers.
Right. Look at Scarlett Johansson's ass.
They're so colorful. They're saving the world. Like, you just felt like this is something.
Sam Jackson has an eye patch.
Even he's there. And all your faves are back in one movie. It just felt like, wow, they're giving people something they've never seen
and
before.
And then he used them properly.
That as well.
He used them properly. And to me...
Are you a Buffy guy? Were you a Joss?
No, I wasn't a Joss. I was not a Joss. I'm trying to think of when because I still am not a Buffy person. It wasn't like I went back and consumed it afterwards. I mean, I'm trying to think of when I got into Joss.
Were you a Fireflyer?
I didn't watch the series, but I watched Serenity. I mean, I watched the movie. I think so. Maybe then.
So going.
I didn't watch Dollhouse either.
So you're not even religious about it. You're like, oh, he's a good guy.
No, yeah. I mean, I like him as a person.
I was not I'm not an anti-Joss guy, but I didn't watch. I watched a few episodes of Buffy when we were casting Jay and Bob, and that's how Eliza got in the movie. So whatever she was in, I think the Hellmouth stuff it was called or something. Hellmouth. Dartmouth. I think I saw that stuff. I didn't see the Firefly stuff. So I'm not a brown coat or anything like that. So I kind of went in. I didn't go in with arms crossed like, you fucking impressed me. Because I was like, look, they did the smart thing. It's Marvel Moneyball, where they're just like, find somebody who knows the genre.
Right, who knows this world.
Knows how to work with effects, knows how to direct a movie. maybe they're coming off of something that didn't do so hot, and we get them a little cheaper
for a price.
For a price,
yeah.
and that's
and he kills himself to make it. But what
and
he
also
did,
the responsibility he's given with that piece as well. I mean, he's no pig in a poke. It's not like fucking Joss Whedon couldn't get hired in this
right.
town. But he was coming off of his last movie was Serenity, which made
Serenity
like
did fine.
30 million or whatever.
Well, here's why I brought it up, because that's the only film I've seen in that entire universe that I thought this feels, other than Kick-Ass, which those movies don't count because they're like, you know what I mean? They're like indie rock bands in a Rolling Stones world. But that was the movie where I felt like he did what you have done, which is to take a world that's serious with, contextually big ideas and still make it funny and sarcastic and self-aware and without being meta, just funny enough.
That's what
it seemed
Buffy
grounded.
was,
you know what I mean? And and then looking at that, comparing it to, we were talking about Dogma, that what was great about Dogma is big ideas, serious consequences, high stakes, so fucking funny.
The Avengers of religious films.
Yes, exactly. And thank you for giving that to me, because I'm going to take it. And I feel like versus this kind of somber, either overly earnest execution of comic books, which is just so sincere as to be sickeningly trealy.
I know, but that makes my dick hard.
Oh, everything makes your dick hard.
That
Kevin.
makes my pussy wet. I love to see.
Well, that's probably harder to do.
Not at all. All you have to do is do Batman well. And for like Chris Nolan, I'm not one of these Nolan apologists who's like, fucking everything he does is brilliant.
Inception was funny. Inception was funny and smart and brilliant and big ideas.
But he's serving a larger master with Batman. Like, it's not him going, I'm this joyless prick who likes everything dark. He's doing that character. So all of us who've loved dark Batman for years, like I remember in 1989 seeing Tim Burton's Batman being like, oh shit, this is as dark as it gets. This is fucking insane.
Did you get the books? Did you? When I
was
like Watchmen, Dark Knight, Watchmen, Dark Knight. That was all I bought.
But Tim Burton's 89 Batman was like, we'd only ever had the Adam West Batman.
Right,
so this was like, holy shit, they're finally doing it right. And now when you look at it,
comparatively,
cinema,
that was very light Batman, dusky Batman.
It was a giggle fest compared to like what Nolan does. So if you're a hardcore Batman geek, even if you don't agree with everything he did in like across the movies, although the middle one is fucking nearly perfect, the one with Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
You still respect the fact that like nobody else, only Nixon could go to China. Nobody else was ever going to give you, and you'll never get it again, the Dark Knight, like a Batman who's just like, holy shit. Like I remember seeing Batman Begins, and I wasn't even a wild fan of that. I had kind of the same indifference that I had to Avengers, and I grew to like that more over time. But I remember seeing it, and people were like, what'd you think? What'd you think? Because I loved 89 Batman was religion to me. If I had fucking hair at all, I would have cut it into my head.
Soft little brain.
Oh, and yeah, right. And still, it was just somebody was doing Batman right. And fucking Prince did the soundtrack, and it was huge. Mr. Mom was Batman, and Nicholson was Joker, and it was everywhere, man. In Times Square, the big bat insignia was like right up. Like, and comics, finally, you were a comics person, you were like, we're legit.
Well, yeah, and finally someone's making something that represents what we really experience when we read the books instead of this like
a little darker, pop,
candy
bam.
culture. Yeah, exactly.
But when I saw Batman Begins, I was like, well, someone was like, what'd you think? I was like, it's kind of like a cop movie where he just wears a cape. Like, it's more of a straight up, there's no sense of humor to it, and it's very earnest and blah, blah, blah. And so by the time he does the next one, you go, oh, yeah, this wasn't an accident.
Yeah, this is who he is.
This is what he wants to do. And as a Bat fan, you're like, oh, shit, he's given us the exact fucking Batman we've wanted for years.
He was giving you the books. I mean, the books, there was never comedy in the books.
But that all being said, and God bless him, he did a wonderful job. That all being said, you'll never see its ilk again.
No.
They'll rein it in. Batman will be more Avengers-like, probably more Iron Man-like, because Iron Man is the template now.
Yeah.
Look how strong the Iron Man template is. He's the fucking spine of the Avengers universe.
He's the spine of that whole,
all those movies.
That entire galaxy, all of them.
And he's the same thing. I mean, like even Robert Downey Jr. said it himself at one point. He was bombing around doing press, I think around the first summer, because it was Iron Man came out, and then The Dark Knight came out later in the summer. And he was like, why does anyone give a shit about Batman? He's so fucking morose. He's going, Tony Stark, he's a playboy. He's fucking having a good time.
He wore a Black Sabbath t-shirt for two-thirds of the movie.
It's kind of badass.
Genius. It was so fucking
But
badass.
I give that credit to, and I'm talking about this everywhere lately, when it comes up, Iron Man. Iron Man comes up more than you would imagine. I think there's this weird renaissance for it. Maybe because 3 is about to happen.
Maybe so.
Jon Favreau deserves all the fucking credit. I mean, I know there was somebody that hired him, and it's probably Kevin Feige at Marvel who runs the operations over there. But they brought in a guy whose like first move was, hey, let's get Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Because nobody,
like not a hero in the slightest.
No, and nobody wanted to hire that guy. And
Right.
he was like, maybe he was doing art films and he was having drug problems a few years prior and shit like that. But we all knew he could be a great actor.
Right.
But he was fucking living TNT or whatever.
Right.
And Favreau stands up and goes, I think he's the guy. And Marvel fights it. I guess Paramount was the financier or co-financier. They were putting the movie out through them. They fought it a little bit. Nobody wanted this.
Yeah.
And Favreau fought for it. And that's the guy who is your linchpin. Like Avengers, God bless Joss Whedon. Without fucking Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, you don't get there. Man.
Right.
It's just he is the fucking spine.
He was.
And that all comes from like a dude going, I think it's this guy. He made an art house choice, and then they put Gwyneth Paltrow in it.
Right.
And
Once they got a real actor at the center of that movie, everything
suddenly
changed.
becomes actor bait, and like other people who's like, I would never do a movie
Get in
like
an
this.
iron suit. Give me a break.
Think about it. You don't get to Ben Kingsley in the new Iron Man without fucking hiring Robert Downey Jr. It may have been like, we'll look back at the ripples of that move for the next 20 years. Robert Downey Jr. is fucking like not just back. He was never here.
Right.
This
Yeah,
before.
never. No.
Like
this is not a renaissance. This is a naissance.
This is yes. It's otherworldly what has happened. So,
but
rightfully deserved. Can you think of somebody fucking more charming?
How can you have this big of a stiffy for all of this stuff and not want to make
another film? Because I'm a fan first and foremost.
But don't.
But I will make another film. I just don't want to make that kind of film.
Don't you? Because I was going to say, I feel like when I am at my most joyful about my work is when I am deep mired in my own fandom. Because I think that's, you know what I mean? Like when I'm like, oh God, this is going to be so fucking awesome. Yes. And I feel like that when you step away from the work is when you aren't excited about it. But you don't sound like a guy who's never going to make another movie again.
I don't know. See, I think like I spent the first 20 years making, and now I'm okay to like advocate, to kick back and be like, hey, I saw this thing that was cool. And granted, a lot of times I'm advocating shit that it's not like, hey, I've discovered this character called Batman. You know, it's shit that's kind of popular, but every once in a while in there's shit that people haven't heard about so much. And all the things that fed me for a while, like now I get to kick back. Like I did a fucking 2 episodes of this podcast I do called Fat Man on Batman with Grant Morrison. And one of the things I got to talk about was like, dude, you fed me. You were one of my last meals before my ship set sail.
Right.
Like, that's who I was reading, was Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, Animal Man. These were the ideas that were feeding me right before I fucking, launched my fucking ship. So it's cool now, like 20 years on, like there's this loop closing of sorts where like I get to sit down with people that inspired me or pick the brains of people that I've always kind of admired and stuff, or sit down with people that I'm like, how did you do it? And I know I've done some cool shit myself, but like I like to hear about fucking somebody else's ascent, if you will. And I like to, I don't know, to share that. Like, I think that's the idea behind all the podcasts. Somewhere behind it all.
So many shows.
Far too many.
It's not like you went away.
I'm afraid I'm going to die. That's it.
Yeah,
I just want to get it all out as much as possible.
I mean, you're establishing a legacy. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because just making the one, it's like a pint of blood every week for me.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm doing other stuff, and I know you're doing other stuff. And
if I had a job like you, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't do this. I would still do this movie, but it'd be a lot harder.
I mean, you're not stipulating to the fact that you have an illness, which you do. You have you're like
I don't, but I mean, honestly, like I've gone to doctors and whatnot, and they're like, well, fucking lose weight.
No, not a literal illness, a mental illness that makes you not be able to not work.
Oh no, not at all. Like I work, I get up and I work.
You're like always working.
But I know, what that's tied to. I've told this before. It's a boring story, but I'll tell it one more time. I used to do one thing. I'd get up and I'd make movies and figure out how to make movies, write a script. Sometimes it took you a long time to get that movie made and shit. Like I remember the days sitting by the phone like a fat boy waiting for a prom date, fucking waiting for somebody to call and be like, "You got the money, go make your art and shit." Every once in a while I'd diverge, make a comic book or whatever, or do Q&A and stuff. And so I hit this place, after Zach and Miri and then after Southwest Airlines as well, where I just kind of rebooted and I was like, look, do everything. My father died. No, that really informed it. And I was like, shit, man, I'm going to die screaming like my old man one day. I might as well just fucking try to do everything dopey thing I ever. Favreau was on our spoiler show once and he put it best. I try to steal it all the time. Sounds like I'm sucking his dick big time, but I love that Iron Man movie.
He's a talented guy.
He's a good guy.
He's a very guy.
He said, when you go to the theme park, man, you just want to ride all the rides before they throw you out. And I'm like, yes, that's the plan at this point. And maybe it becomes, had a good time because it's middle age. Maybe this was my version of the middle age crisis, but I just got over. Well, first I shut down. After Zach and Miri, I completely shut down and disengaged for about a month, and not even intentionally. I was scared that I'd get beat up on the internet because Zach and Miri didn't perform, and fucking Seth Rogen had been such a role, and people were gonna be like, only you could fucking ruin Seth Rogen's career and shit. So I was like, I can't stand it.
Look at it.
I will disengage. And I sat around and I ingested for a while, and the shit I ingested, it was weird. I'd kind of I picked up where I left off. The same shit I was interested in when I started making films and then started getting paid to make films, I picked up again. Hockey, comic books, fucking Batman, like all the passions that were there before film that I kind of put to the side and have always woven into the films I do. But I fed myself on a steady diet for a month and kind of came out of it rebooted.
Right.
And when I came out rebooted, I was just like, do as much as you want. Stop trying to do one thing and do it well.
Right.
Because everyone in that world that makes films, they're far more adept at it than you'll ever be. I'm not a great filmmaker. I'm a pretty talented and clever writer, and I did figure out how to shoot a movie, but I was not a visual stylist. Telling stories, obviously, I'm an oralist. I'm all oral. You know that.
I know
you
that
get
about
that
you. I
impression.
do. I feel that coming off
It's coming off the robe. You can. It's just that's my first language. I've always likened me as a filmmaker to learning 2 years of Spanish in high school and then going and trying to live in Spain for the next 10 years. So I'm just like, de donde es la zapateria? Like, I didn't know how to tell stories visual. I knew how to tell that Clerks story. I just set up a camera and let shit happen in front of it. And then one day they're like, Pwang, you're a filmmaker now. And I didn't know how to do that at all. So I had to sit there and learn my craft over the course of 20 years. And whether you're trying to or not, you just keep doing shit over and over. You got to get better at it and shit. So the visual aspect started picking up. But it was always like fucking fighting in mud, to borrow from The Dark Knight Returns. Like, it was just I couldn't swing as effectively. Or, to borrow the Butch Cassidy fucking or Sundance analogy, can I move? In film, I can't move. In film, there are set rules that I can't be as fucking limber as I can when I just stand in front of a microphone or do a podcast or do a Q&A or take the live podcast on the road or any of these other things. So me being a storyteller who likes to just tell a story rather than like, here are a bunch of pictures that tell the story. If you look at my movies, it's usually people talking to each other. Background doesn't really change. We don't do fancy things with the camera work. So for me, I'm wired to have people talk. As you can see, it's your show and you haven't even fucking spoken in 10 minutes. So that's how I like to do it. And suddenly I found that and I was like, oh, I want to do that. And that led to like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do this. And I think my father dying had a bunch to do with it. Doing one thing 20 years had a bunch to do with it. But you just get to a point where you're like, there's so many other things I'd rather be doing. Like, I understand the magic of cinema. It'll never go away. And me backing away from it allows me to love it more.
Well, and I agree. And I think, I mean, it's just, there was a moment earlier in the conversation where I felt like I would not be surprised if 1 or 5 or 10 years from now, you know, whatever the thing is that's simmering under the surface explodes out again when you've explored all these other...
I could do it on TV. Like, think about it. The movies that I like, the stories I like doing is this. 2 people sitting there talking to each other. Doesn't really require a lot of money and shit. And back in the day, before the advent of the internet and where we are currently, and before streaming, back when it was like you made a movie, it was in a movie theater, and then it went to home video.
Then it was in a shittier movie theater, and then it went to home video.
There's a chain of command, and you went down it. But back then, it was, you know, there weren't a lot of people doing it. And then I kind of got to do it early, but now, like, there's so many different ways to convey a story. And I can, rather than waste the money that it takes to tell a movie story, because even if you keep your budget low, you, as a production, you're still beholden to, if you want to advertise it, you're paying the same rates as Batman. You're paying the same rates as Men in Black. Like, you don't go to a newspaper or television station and go, I want to run a commercial for my independent film. We don't have a lot of money, so can I pay you a tenth of what you would normally get? So at that point, all the shit evens up. So it doesn't matter what you spent on your budget. And that math always drove me nuts, where I'm like, we spent $5 million to make the movie, and you're spending $10 million to sell the movie. I could have used that $10 million to make a stronger movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And why don't you just
we could have sold it a different way?
And why don't you be more clever about selling the movie and not just fucking
do the same shit you do for every other film when it doesn't even make any sense,
and do it for less? So that you get to a point of like, I don't want to do it that way anymore, and you realize, well, the stories I like to tell, I can set up a fucking webcam and I can throw that shit on YouTube. I can pitch it on television and shoot it there and stuff like that. But it just doesn't require the effort that a theatrical film. And when I say effort, it's not me being lazy. It's just in order to tell one dopey story, not even that, but in order to tell a talky story, there's an economic way to do it, a more responsible way that's not like, can I have $20 million, please? Right. And then on top of that 20, you're going to have to spend another 20 to sell it. You know, it's just, I can convey these thoughts now directly into a microphone. Like that was the frustrating thing. Like writing something like Red State. I write it and I have to wait 4 fucking years to share that idea with everybody. And during that time, you're like, oh my God, I hope nobody does this movie, which is ridiculous because nobody's going to do that movie. But still, you're like, oh my God, I hope somebody doesn't do something similar. Something similar that works, something similar that doesn't work, or something doesn't happen in the news. Or Gigli. I hope fucking Gigli doesn't happen to us again right before we release, any of that thing. And then if you're doing a podcast, you sit down in front of a microphone, man, we spill it out, and we're done. And my cool ideas that I'm like, I hope nobody hears it. They heard it right then and there, and it's a matter of record. And if somebody else fucking does something similar, there's always someone on the internet who'll be like, this motherfucker did it first. Just like fucking, you'll always hear Simpsons did it first. If somebody tells a joke remotely similar to, I got police agents that I don't even pay throughout the world who will quickly jump up and be like, somebody did something exactly like you did. So, and that's what matters to me. I don't care about the money, and I got the pussy, so that was sweet already. But I'm committed to lifelong pussy. So it's not that. What does it for me is going through the fucking door first, being the one who it's like, if somebody else can do a similar, and again, we're not talking about rocket science, we're talking about dick jokes, but it's so hard to do something new. It is hard to do anything new, so I'll take that. And some people will be like, well, why don't you use your time better and try to cure fucking cancer? Well, I'm not that talented. I'm obviously not only talented enough to pull off a clever dick joke, somewhat clever. But that's why it's not like I'm lazy. It's not like I don't want to make film anymore. I love it so much, it's easy to back away. And I've always been a fiscally responsible storyteller because I came from the low budget world. And you know what you can do with this much money. So then the rest of it just seems like, wait, what? What's happening? It's madness, man. And it's just like, I'll find a cheaper way to tell the story. And I just keep reducing the budget. And a podcast is like next to nothing. It costs you a little bit because you start putting them up, and the more popular it becomes, you got to pay storage fees and shit. But still, freedom, baby. Like, nobody tells me what to say. I can say whatever the fuck I want. I can literally, I don't have to go to somebody's office and be like, okay, the show I want to do is called Fat Man on Batman. It's just me talking about Batman. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me permission. To decide whether it's valuable. I don't know. It's valuable to me. Check it out and see. I'm going to talk to some people. I don't give a fuck if 5 people listen. Like, I'm excited to do it. And if I'm excited to do it, it's going to carry through. It's going to read so passionately that people who hear it are going to be like, oh, it's a powerful document for change in a dopey podcast about a stupid fictional character. Document for change. When you hear people talk passionately about something, even fucking irrelevant things, it juices you up because you sit there going, this is allowed. You can get excited about something so ridiculous. And again, we sit here talking and we talk about first world problems of like, oh, I don't want to fucking make movies and shit like that. And people are like, dude, shut up because you don't want to fucking make French fries. But honestly, I would make fucking French fries. I came from a convenience store. I don't give a shit about, like, I don't care how the money gets made. Money is not that material to me. Like, I can make it with my mouth, and if it's not through words, I'll put a fucking dick in it, and I'll get money, and I'll pay my bills. So I don't care about how I turn the dollar, man, trick or not. I don't give a shit. That's not where the love is. That's not what drives me. Like, I'll find a way to make money. So you can't sit there and be like, oh, you don't want this job. Yeah, I do. And not like I want it more than this job, but it's like, if I can't give you what I used to give you in this job, I don't want to do it anymore. It's just like, athletes get to a place where they're like, I can't fucking do what I used to do, man, because physically I can't do it. And I think creative people have the same kind of thing. I think the guff gets empty at a certain point. You have to. Now, one more question before we do self-inflicted wounds, and it is you brought it up, and it's funny, I forgot about it, but it sounds like in that breath that you mentioned it that it was pretty seminal in your life, the Southwest thing. Yeah, it's huge. Well, it's so interesting because I remember in retrospect now it's ridiculous, but in the moment it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and that shows you what a fucking happy, blessed life I have had. In my head, Kevin, you're like just
like you don't give a fuck and you're like casual and glib and you're
I
like,
am
fuck
now.
it.
Oh shit. Anything left of the old Kev went on that flight.
So I'm sure people have heard this a million times on your show, but no one on my show has heard it. And I don't need you to rehash what happened, but I am curious about the fact that it seems like it was like this, like a period, like a piece of punctuation.
It really was. It was kind of the ending of something and the beginning of something else. And again, with time, because it's been almost like 2 years at this point, I'm very able to be like, fuck, what? And it was more than that now. I think it might actually be 3 years or something.
It feels like it was a long time ago.
Honestly, yeah, I think it was like 2009. So, oh my God. Yeah, it's getting further and further away now, just like my flight. As I sat on the ground and said, I didn't think I was that fat. Now, in retrospect, I should have played it differently, which is so weird because I'm such a fucking marketing whore. Like, I know how to sell my fucking pussy like you read about. And I was given the biggest opportunity in the world to do that, that thing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't process it. Like, Larry King was like, come on my show. And I'd been on Larry King's show once before for Dogma with maybe Chris Rock or something like that. But here he was like, come on the fucking show, talk about the airline. And I was like, wow, I'm finally getting invited onto Larry King's show. And it's to talk about being fat. Oh. So I was like, as much as I would love to capitalize on this, that's only a thought in retrospect. In the moment, I didn't even think about capitalizing. I was humiliated, man. Like, that to me was my big secret, right? Like, if they ever find out I'm fat, I'm fucked. But everyone knew. But, you know, just because I put on a heavy coat and wear layers, in your mind, you're camouflaged. And, you know, when you're somewhat successful or even a mediocre success like I was, they stop reminding you about your shortcomings because suddenly your shortcomings become your pluses and shit. So
I don't think they see them because that's not what people are focused on.
Well, you go from being, you fucking fat piece of shit, to, what's up, big guy? Hey, big guy. And you're big guy for the next 10, 15 years. And then suddenly somebody turns around and goes, you're not big guy, you're fat. Like, so fat that we're going to fucking not let you on this plane. And probably nobody ever would have found out about the incident, but I was so terrified they were gonna because I saw people getting on the plane, made eye contact, like, oh, they fucking know who I am and shit like that. So I figured somebody was going to say something. So I was like, I got to take control.
I got to own this. Yeah.
And I started bang, just tweeting like fucking crazy.
And also you were probably pissed.
I was pissed and I was just like, I just wanted to get home. And I was like, fucking, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Like, you're out of your fucking mind. And I was still to this day, there's a friend of mine who I fell out with over this fucking incident.
Really?
Because he was like, you got to stop talking about this. And I was like, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, this is not a shtick.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, he said to me,
this is not like some kind of a thing I'm flogging for
self-promotion. He thought it was a bit. He was like, Kevin, if I have to hear you say that you could put the armrest down one more time, like, I'd rather hear you tell you break the toilet story again than hear about the armrest. And I said, dude, like, you think this is a fucking anecdote, a funny anecdote? The only reason I'm out there talking about it is because if I don't, I'm going to fucking slip my wrist. Like, this is the most humiliating thing that ever happened to me. And the only way I could cope with it is to fucking tell that story over and over until it means nothing to me.
Right.
And he didn't see that. And I was just like, you just think this is a fucking bit? You're giving me notes on a routine? Like, we're disconnected right now. So it was tough. But looking back, I'm like, fuck, man, it wasn't that big a deal. But in the moment, I was like, everybody knows I'm fat. You know why? Because I flipped the microscope. Same shit I tell my kid. And I stole that from Carrie Fisher. One time somebody said to me, and this is not even on Twitter, I think it was on the View Askew message board back in the day. Like, I saw Carrie Fisher.
Message board.
Whiteboard, man, back in the day and shit. Looked like Reddit. I remember going to Reddit and I was like, this looks like my message board. Carrie Fisher, somebody had said Carrie Fisher was doing a Q&A and she said some shit about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So I had her email address. I was like, who the fuck you think you are saying, I can't believe you get to that place in your life where the woman who I had a picture next to my bed growing up, I wanted to marry Princess Leia.
Yes.
I loved her so much. And here I'm writing a steamy email about who the fuck do you think you are? If I was her, I would have been like, I'm the fucking princess of the fucking rebellion.
Universe.
Piece of shit. You had me on your sheets. So I wrote her and she goes, Kevin, you got to relax, man. Sometimes you got to spin the microscope away and look and notice how small what you're getting tight about is.
Right.
So I borrowed that. I always give it to my kid. I was like, you got to step away from the microscope and shit. And in that moment, I super glued the microscope to my fucking eye and I couldn't get away from it. And I wouldn't go near the internet because I was so scared. But I'd walk into my my bedroom, my wife would be there online, and like I'd be like, is it still at the top of the Google News page? And she'd be like, yeah. And then I'd wake up in the morning and she'd be up already, and I was like, is it still up there? She's like, yeah. I was like, how many articles? She's like, 5,000. And every one of those articles, because I'm in my tweets going, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, every one of them uses the fucking F word right in the headline. Fat director fucking gets mad for being fat. They felt the one word, the word that I'm like ducking my whole fucking life. All these people that used to write about me for like doing creative things, making a movie or shit, suddenly they were writing. I felt abandoned by the press. They were writing about me as like fat, like put fat in quotes in every headline, fat director, blah, blah, blah. The Philadelphia newspaper, the Philadelphia Daily News, had a fucking headline. I still think it's actionable, because it didn't include fat in quotes. And it said, picture me, it said blimp landed.
Wow.
And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
I said nothing about being a blimp. So at first I got very, defensive and fucking, make fun of myself and attack at the same time.
Which is what we all did. I mean, if you're ever, that is the absolute number one outsider defense mechanism. It was what I always did when I was a kid. I make fun of my height, I make fun of my looks, I make fun of my race. It's like, I'm going to beat you to it.
It's called, stealing the thunder.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But then what happens is, you're right. I mean, unfortunately, it can be feeding that machine. And I don't know. It's like when it happened, I just thought what happened was wrong. And Kevin is being outspoken about it. I didn't react negatively. I thought he's like, fuck you. I'm not going to go quietly into that good night. I was
outraged because I felt fucked over. Honestly, and this is going to sound weird to say as a fucking very privileged white man, but I felt profiled like a motherfucker. Yeah. I know I'm fat. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't walk around thinking I'm fucking thin, but I'm not what you're saying I am. I'm not. I know I fit in the seat. My belt is buckled. The armrests are down. Like,
done.
I'm fat, yes, but I'm not that category fat, and that means something to me.
Right.
The fact that I could still buckle the fucking belt and put the armrest down on a small commercial plane like a fucking Southwest flight is a badge of honor to a guy who carries around some fucking girth, man. It's like if I was ever too big for the fucking seatbelt, that's when I'd be like, oh my shit, oh my God, I'm a fat piece of shit. So maybe that moment was a wake-up call, but it wasn't in that way because my weight fluctuates all the time. But I honestly felt fucking profiled and they lied. Like, that was the thing that busted me the most. It burned me. I was like, you're lying. The woman saying to me, the pilot wants you to get off the plane. I was like, I know you're lying. Because he can't see me. And I haven't seen him the whole time. And I'm sitting behind a fucking bulkhead seat. Like, and she's like, well, the plane does have mirrors. I was like, yeah, in the fucking bathroom. Like, this guy is no way. But I can't say this because I don't know if the person next to me is a federal marshal who's going to fucking tase my ass. Because I don't want to fuck around on a plane after September 11th. That's why I got off. Otherwise, old me, man, if it was pre-September 11th, I'd be like, yeah, I have to fucking carry my fat ass off this plane. I paid for this ticket. But after September 11th, I'm just like, I've read too many stories about dudes who get drunk on a plane.
Guy taped to the seat with the fucking duct tape in his mouth.
Motherfucker stabs you from behind going, he's crazy, he'll kill us all. So for me, at the moment they were like, I gave as much as a fight where as I could, and I hit the lady on a human level. She comes up to me. She's like, you're going to have to get off the plane. And I was like, why? And I thought my mother had died. I was like, oh my God, did my mother die? Which made no sense whatsoever. But I couldn't imagine why they would be pulling me off. And she's like, there's a rule about weight. And I was like, wait. I said, nah, but the armrests are down. The seatbelt's buckled. And she's like, yeah, still, you're going to have to go, because you have people sitting on the other side of you. And I was like, they don't seem to care. I said, ma'am, I turned to the lady next to me. She's like 50. I was like, ma'am, do you care? Am I squishing you? And she goes, it's a short flight, which is not the answer I was looking for. I was like, thanks for the fucking support, lady. I turned to the other lady next to me. She's a grandma type of shit. She's all wrinkly and whatnot. She looked like she's 80, 85. And I was like, ma'am, am I squishing you? And she's like, what? And I was like, am I squishing you? She's like, what? And I was like, squish. And she goes, I'm fine. And so I was like, see, ma'am, they're fine. And she goes, yeah, that doesn't matter. You're going to have to come with me.
Wow.
And I was like, man, please don't do this because there are people who saw me when I got on the plane who know who I am. This is fucking humiliating.
Right.
And she's like, I don't know what to tell you. So I get up, and as I turn around, because I got to get my bags on the other side in the overhead compartment, I was the last one on the plane sitting in the front fucking row.
Right.
And it's a Southwest flight, so there's no hey man, it's first class, so maybe the people in coach didn't see it.
Exactly.
Everybody's seeing it, even if they don't know who the fuck I am. They're like, oh, another fucking fatty got ejected off a plane. Or maybe not, because I don't even know if it was that prevalent at that point. If it was that, like, if they did it a bunch.
I'm sure there are people who didn't internalize it. I think that there's something larger here, which is the idea that you've worked very hard for people to, your whole life, one, not just you specifically, but in this case you, to transcend whatever
I'm not a fat
shortcomings
guy.
you have,
Yeah,
whatever shortcomings you
I
believe,
may be a fat guy,
that you have.
But
Do
I'm
you know
a
what
fat
I mean?
guy who can make you laugh,
I'm
who
a
I
fat
can
guy.
eat your pussy, who can fucking all the things. You know, I've always had to overcome that. People be like, "Why don't you just lose weight?" And it's like, "Well, it's not that
you're
easy."
A filmmaker and you're an intellectual and you're successful and you did all those things on your own steam, on your own effort, with a lot of blood and sweat and fucking sacrifice.
And I was in
and
that
then
moment
they reduced you to fat guy.
Yeah,
yes, and it would
that.
be the same thing. I know why and how you reacted the way you did, because I can imagine, let's say, being pulled over and somebody saying to me, you know, flashing their flashlight in my face and saying, like, "Do you have drugs in the car?"
Yeah.
Or where did
Do you
you
want to step out of the car,
Where did
ma'am?
where did you get this car? Is this your car? Like, I'm driving, you know, my $75,000 car, and then someone's saying, "Where did you get this car?"
We're just like, "Do you not watch the talk?"
I would lose my fucking mind. I would lose my mind. Because in that moment, everything that you would, your worst suspicions of other people and how they see you were manifested.
And it wasn't just in that moment. It wasn't just the people on the plane and the airline and the people at the desk. It just opened the fucking floodgates. Like, the last allowable bias I feel that you can get away with talking about in public, where you won't fucking like enrage people or be called a racist or fucking hate monger, is fat.
Yeah.
People go after fat people like you fucking read about, man. Like when you see old movies and you fucking see minorities getting picked on, that's what the current climate is for fat people in this country, which baffles me because there are far more of us than fucking you, and we're all bigger. 2/3 of this country is overweight.
Did you see Django?
Yeah.
You just made me think of the scene where Caprio's like, "Why don't you all just
yeah, I guess you're right. Don't make us, we're jolly now, but if you piss us off, we're going to start eating the fuck out of all of you."
And I think I think weightism is absolutely, yeah, it is. It
was a shitty moment where I was like, ew, this is what people like. I believe the best about people.
Yeah.
I not even like I have to because I was raised a fucking Catholic or whatever. That's just who I am.
How you see the
man.
world.
I'm like, yeah, fucking people are inherently good, and yeah, of course there's some evil out there and shit, but I think most people are always kind of striving toward the light rather than fucking like, oh, let's just. Well, we're all striving toward what's easy, unfortunately now. But even while doing that,
the light is beyond that. I think we're reaching towards it, even if we're not striving.
Absolutely.
For it.
And in that moment, like, not only were the people in the situation involved, but everybody like who wrote about it, the fucking press. The fucking people who were in the age of social media who could just weigh in, you know, like who I'd never meet in a million years, but like, here's my moment, man, and just fucking stabbed at that fucking fat, where you were like, shit, keep stabbing, maybe it'll go away. But instead, they just got through the blubber straight to your fucking heart. So it was tough. And now, in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, like, grow up. Like, I had so many opportunities were handed to me. Like, they were like, fucking Letterman was like, come do the top 10.
Right,
and I was like, no. That was the only thing that I can really keep my head up about that whole situation was, given that maybe ultimately it was a fucking test of character or something, given the opportunity to truly whore it out. Because I'll joke about, like, I'm a whore and I'm always fucking selling shit on Twitter and whatnot. But given a chance to truly fucking whore out on my dignity, I went another way.
Right.
Like, and I was happy about that. Like, I didn't go on Larry King. I didn't go on fucking, I hadn't been asked to the Daily Show since fucking I made Jane Silent Bob Strike Back and Jon Stewart was on it. But sure enough, I got a call about like, do you want to come and be on the show? And we'll put you in one of the chairs and blah, blah, blah. And all this shit. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, in that moment, now looking back, I'm like, I should have done it all. I should have owned it and just had a good time with it.
You know, it was a wound at the time.
I was
in
my room, in my office by myself, like fucking crying, not even smoking weed because that makes me happy. I just didn't even want to smoke weed. I was just like crying, just fucking like I can't believe people are this shitty. Why did this fucking happen? What did I do wrong? Blah, blah, blah. It was bad. It was, but again, like looking back, that's my lowest.
Did you get to a place though where you realized that people are terrible and it had nothing to do with you on some level? That
it had everything to do with me. I was the fucking. I was fat enough for them to fucking stand behind and go, his crime is he's not.
If it
like
wasn't
us.
you, if it wasn't you, it would have been, you know, the guy who got too drunk and was belligerent, or, you know, fucking Nick Nolte trying to attack a car with a golf club. I mean, the internet is a tank of piranha, and a piece of meat falls in, and the piece of meat could have been their fucking brother, and if it was their brother then, but now it's meat.
And it's a cute story too. It's a memeable story of fat guy in a little plane. You know, it's cute. It's nobody got hurt. There's no blood.
No lives were at stake.
Ultimately, my pride is stung.
Your rage kind of fed it a little bit, because whoever felt badly about it got over that quickly, because you were so mad. Then they were like, okay, this guy's got his defenses up.
Let it go, fatty, and shit like that and whatnot.
But
also there's a degree of like, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter if like I ate government cheese growing up and shit like that. When you make movies for a living, you're perceived as the other. Yeah. And in that moment, I went from being one of everybody to one of the 1%. And motherfuckers are like, well, why don't you ride in a private jet? What are you doing on a commercial airline anyway?
They Marlon Brando'd you. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's kind of shitty where I was like, and I felt really mad at the press mostly, because I was like, I remember talking to a journalist being like, man, like, can't you be out there getting my fucking back? Everyone's just writing the easy fucking story.
Right, the absolutely easy story.
And you come to me, and I felt this way about so many of them. I was like, all of you guys come to me, man, when you want something. Like, I'm here for a fucking quote and blah, blah, blah. And then fucking, like, the moment this happens, y'all turn on me and blah.
Yeah, users.
And then a friend of mine was just like, Kevin, you seem to think there's the same fucking people. Like, you're in a different world now. Yeah, like, there are no more 100 journalists. Like, everybody's writing.
Everybody and their mother.
And you're like, oh, yeah. And you can't. And then so I kind of made peace with that, where I was like, yeah, I guess I couldn't really be mad at them. And also, why are they going to get my back? What are you going to write? The story about like, hey, he's fat, but he's a good guy. Leave him alone. Or the story of like, he fucking got caught being fat. That's fucked up. Better him than me. And look how mad he is. And he wrote some funny shit about the airline. That was the other thing. Because I was tweeting so comedically, people are like, "Oh, he don't care. He's having a fucking good time."
And that was what I said, is because you're so smart and you have been so successful and you are so funny. I think people felt like, not that you were exploiting it. I mean, I think it was unfair of your friend to be like so dismissive, but more just like, he's got his hands around it. He's got his hands around it. Yeah. He's dealing with it. He's looking at it. He's talking about it. He doesn't give a shit. Fuck all those people.
I had my hands around a crying towel that my face was buried in. And it was miserable. It was like 3 days. I remember I lived through Benifer, right? And that didn't happen to me, but I was, near ground zero.
Yes.
So we took a lot of shrapnel. And I couldn't understand, like, I was like, fucking Ben Affleck is a stronger person than most people will ever give him credit for, because he fucking took the enmity of everybody at a certain point,
just for living his life,
just for fucking a girl that, like, I don't know, any guy wouldn't fucking be like, I'll put suntan lotion on her on a fucking,
I will carry
on a boat on a video.
I will put suntan lotion on her boat,
and I will dress any way she wants. Like, they gave him shit for, like, he stopped wearing jeans and he's wearing cotton pants. So they went after this guy left and right, man. And then when the relationship was over, they just fucking beat him and beat him constantly, which is why, like, when he's up there getting his award, you're like, good for you.
That was the best.
But still, as they fucking beat that dude down, I would always be like, God, I don't know how I could live through that. Like, turning on the fucking computer and seeing 50 articles about what a dick you are.
Vitriol. Yeah, not just dismissive, but like vitriol. Like
total bitterness.
Cruelty. Yeah.
And then fucking Southwest happened to me. And for 3 days, I got to know what it was like, and I was like, holy shit. And the good news is, like, Ben, you survived. Yeah. Like, it's just like, it's words at the end of the day. And you may feel it a lot, because I live a kind of privileged fucking life now and shit, and I don't have to, I don't deal with fucking the world where people are shitty to each other all the time. Right. In my world, even though it's a fake pleasantry, everyone's like, hey, how are you? so good. But and there I was exposed to something that most fucking everybody gets exposed to all the time, and shit that I know as a fat guy and a fat boy, I was exposed to my whole fucking life. Right. And it had gone away for a while, and that moment was a reminder of like, oh, that still exists. Like, you'll never run that down. It's like it doesn't matter. This will never happen because I ain't into the shit, but I could stand there and win a fucking best picture and shit. And to somebody, you'll always be like, fuck that fat piece of shit. Who's he fucking think he is? Like, you know what it's like. Yeah, but there's a bunch of people who always be like, who the fuck do you think you are? And if you can add something to it, like, is one, like, look, even somebody like Affleck, who's good looking and smart and charming, gets people going, who the fuck do you think you are? So when you don't look the part of somebody up front and you're just, fucking, I got bigger tits than fucking you get a lot of, who the fuck do you think you are? Like people being real aggressively dismissive of you wanting something a little better for yourself.
Something that you're willing to work for too, not something you're
trying
asking
to
for
buy
a
it or
handout.
steal it.
Yeah.
It's crazy, the enmity out there sometimes.
Well,
and I saw a lot of it then. And then it all like fucking 3 days, it was the worst, man. And then Tiger Woods came out and said, I cheated on my wife.
Tiger Woods pulled a tampon out of a waitress and flung it into a bush.
And everybody forgot I was fat. It was amazing. It was amazing. The moment that golfing son of a bitch came out and said, I'm cheating, everybody was like, fuck the fat guy. This guy's really famous. And so for 3 days, I went through hell. And then at the end of 3 days, when he became the top story, I fucking dropped way down the Google News page. And suddenly, I was breathing again, and I was like, "Oh my god!" It was literally like being in the midst of a maelstrom, and then the maelstrom passed, and I didn't have to live with it for like months. Like Ben had to live with it for a long fucking time and shit, and climb his way out of it. It hit hard, like a sinkhole, as we were talking about in the other podcast, and then just as quickly was gone. And luckily, I was able to climb out of the sinkhole. And I do, in retrospect, look back and go like, oh, I could have handled that better, and not better in the way of like, I shouldn't have been a shitty on Twitter. No, that was the good part. That was fun. And what I thought was like, oh, I'm the little guy, and I caught the big guy fucking over the little guy, and I forgot that I'm the big guy. And I was like, hey, the big guy fucked over the little guy. And they're like, you ain't the little guy at all. And so I thought the story was fucking like, hey man, I caught an airline being shitty. And since I got a platform,
and they're shitty to everyone, no matter what. You know what I mean?
They're equal opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Shitty.
And they were like, "No, they."
That wasn't the story. The story was fat guy in a little plane. And I should have seen that as a guy who makes jokes for a living, but I didn't see it, man. So in retrospect, I wish I played it differently, but it was definitely a defining moment, and it was also empowering as fuck because if you can live through. That was my worst nightmare. Well, I mean, of course, my worst nightmare is something fucking happening to my wife and kids, or let's be honest, me first and foremost. But if I can live through something that's like, oh, my worst nightmare, relatively speaking, the whole world going, you fat piece of shit, was it. And at the end of the day, after the whole world got it out of their system, everything went back to normal. Like it didn't change. It wasn't suddenly like, we don't care about you now that you're fat. I changed.
Right.
Because suddenly I was like, oh, I don't trust a lot of these people anymore.
Right.
And not in a way of like batten down the hatches. I'm in it all about me. In fact, I became more externalized, I think, after that. That's when I started going out and doing the podcast live on the road because I couldn't fly, didn't want to be near an airport. So that somebody would I saw a fucking paparazzi website was like, bounty $5,000 for a picture of Kevin Smith in an airport.
What?
Yeah, and then there was 10,000 if he's sitting in a little chair eating a sandwich. I was like, "Fuck,
come on!"
So I didn't want to go near.
Take that picture and put it on your own.
Why didn't I Peter Parker it, man? Like, why didn't I take my own picture and be like,
$10,000?
I could have did a good angle where I looked fat but not too fat.
No, yes,
I could have prepped
it. Side muscular.
I wasn't thinking at the time. So now, like in retrospect, I realized shit. I could have been a lot cooler about it, but it took me different places. Like without that incident, I don't think I ever would have taken the podcasts on the road. Like me and Mosier did Smodcast. We've been doing it for 6 years now. First 2 years, we would muse because I get up on stage to do Q&A. We'd muse about like, hey man, imagine fucking we did Smodcast in front of people, and he was like, I could never in a million years, blah blah blah. And then one day, because I couldn't go near the airport and shit, I was like, I got to get to a bunch of stand-up gigs, Q&A gigs. So I was like, maybe I can rent a bus. Like fucking Partridge Family had a bus, and like concert people rent buses. And I called up this bus place, and I was like, hey man, can you rent a bus for a few gigs out in Texas, from Los Angeles to Texas? And they were like, yeah, how many people on your party? I was like, just one. It was a long beat, and the guy goes, are you that too fat to fly guy?
No.
I was like, I am that guy.
No.
And he goes, oh, you're going to love traveling on a bus. And so I rented
God.
my first bus, and I went to those 2 gigs. One was in Austin. I think the other was in Dallas. And when I was driving back, I was like, this is fucking awesome, man. I mean, I'll be honest. I was like, I could smoke weed in the back of this bus.
Fuck yeah, you're like a rock star.
I felt
You're a rock star. You're
I
kicking
literally
back.
felt like a rock star.
Got your console out. You got your Xbox.
I
got
could have
your
played
fucking
games.
satellite.
I brought a fleshlight with me, so I was tagging that shit every few miles. I was the lord of my own manor. Nobody was around to judge me. But in the back of the bus, I'm sitting there going, fuck, this would be better if I had friends with me and shit. So when I got home, Scott Mosier, who I'd done Smodcast with, and he was my producer in real life and stuff on a lot of the movies we did. He was at a point where he was like, "Hey man, like I'm trying to figure out how to make some loot." He had some bills to pay, and I was like, "All right, well, dude, I was just thinking, I was out there doing Q&A, and I rented a bus. It was fucking fun. You want to rent a bus, and then we'll just go do Q&A across, not Q&A, Smodcast across the country, like do a few gigs and shit, try it out." And he was like, "Yeah." And I was up doing the Q&A as I was getting pretty fucking healthy. I built up to a nice fucking appearance fee. But when you start talking to people like me and my friend are just going to sit there and talk to each other, most clubs are like, "We'll pay $1,000."
Yeah, like no.
And so, but at that point, I'm like, well, we're building something here,
right? So, and also, well, I guess you were doing the podcast for free from here anyway. So then,
totally.
Yeah.
So it was like, let's see if we could do it. And so, is because of Southwest, I got on the bus in the first place, and because I was on the bus, I was like, "Hey, Moj, maybe we can take Smodcast on the road." And we did. We took it on a tour, and suddenly we were podcasting live. And then now a lot of people do that and shit. But back then, weren't too many.
Yeah.
It wasn't going on. So when that happened, I came back from that first tour. I was like, I fucking love doing live podcasts. It's better than doing a Q&A because I'm sitting there talking to somebody, man, tag team, and this is great. And I became obsessed with the idea of like, I want to get a little black box theater, and we could do it all the time. We could have performances all we want. So we found a space over on Santa Monica Boulevard. Matt Cohen, my friend, he found it. And we opened up Smodcastle. And so the idea was we'd do Smodcast there every week, for a live version for people and stuff, and then maybe other shows or who knows. But it was just a little performance space. Never had that. Didn't do the college thing to its extent, so I never had the, let's be experimental in this fucking stage area, blah, blah, blah. So we start doing shows there, and one of the shows we do is Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, and it was Muse. We'd been... He'd had drug problems his whole life, heroin, OxyContin. He'd been clean for what we thought was 6 years, turned out it was 5, and he'd been lying for like the last year, and he'd fallen back into it and shit.
Right,
while we were going to cop out.
Yeah,
so
I remember that.
I was like, dude, I can't do this again, so we're not friends and stuff. He eventually cleaned up with the help of his lady and stuff, and so when he was about 3 months clean again, he started hanging out and coming around, and that was around the time of Smodcastle, and so I was like, dude, why don't we do it? And Katie Morgan was supposed to do a show with me one night. It was her show, having sex with Katie Morgan. Her dog died. She couldn't make the trip and shit. She was real close to her dog. So we needed to fill the slot. We'd sold some tickets. And Muse was hanging out. And I said, why don't we do a show? I said, this is the beauty of the podcast, is the talking cure. All you have to do is have something interesting to say. And you, my friend, have lived a life full of interesting exploits. He never wanted to talk about using heroin because as an actor, it's like, ew, if people know that you boot, they don't want to hire you because that's gross and shit. I said, well, how's that fucking working out for you? I said, why don't you name it and claim it, man? I said, get out there. I'd written like a blog series at one point about him talking about being on dope and shit. So I said, we'll use that as a guide. We'll just get up, start talking about you being clean. And that way more people will know and more people can keep an eye on you. Kind of like an intervention,
yeah, and
worldwide
make it
intervention.
real. Make it, you speak it, you make it real. Yes.
And just sit there and chat with each other. What's easier than talking to your fucking friend? And if you're doing it in front of people, you're leaning more toward trying to be funny at the same time, but you'd probably do that with your friends anyway.
Right.
So boom, that podcast is born. And that podcast becomes like a profit center for the next few years. Like it grows from this tiny thing. I couldn't even see that one coming. We called it Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, and I never realized, shit, we got millions of dollars in marketing behind the name Jay and Silent Bob. There was a movie once called Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back that they spent, I think it was about $20 million marketing or something. So, you call something Jay and Silent Bob, it's going to attract fucking attention. We had no problem starting to take first it was in a 50-seater at Smodcastle. Then we took it out on the road, man. The first place I think we did it live on the stage, like in a big place, was in Orlando at the Hard Rock, I think. And Muse walked out, 1,500 fucking people welcomed him like Christ to Jerusalem. And you see it in his fucking face, the transformative power of like, oh my God, I'm worth something. And that was always his problem. The dude was a kid from Jersey who was like going to be a roofer maybe his whole life and shit like that. And one day his friend's like, hey, let's make a fucking movie. And he winds up being an actor, and suddenly he's an actor for a living and shit. And, and then he fucking gets lost. And it's weird. The drugs didn't even come from, fucking from the Hollywood side of it, came more from the personal side of life. But, that he had his time and he wasn't really prepared for it. He didn't plan for it. Everything was kind of a surprise. Now he can kind of just sit there and talk about it. I mean, we've got a shorthand after being together for a long time. And watching him come out and talk, watching him literally save his own fucking life with his fucking stories of being like, I was this, blah, blah, blah. it's inspiring. Not only do we make a lot of money off of it, it's fun and shit. And we just made a cartoon movie that we're going to take out on tour. Same thing, just like the show. It's just great. I'm like, look at you, motherfucker. You did it with no one's fucking help. Like, we put this man in so many rehabs. Ben Affleck paid for him. I paid for him. Fucking, like, people in Malibu, fucking the highest of the high and the lowest of the low and shit. But ultimately, he's the captain of his own ship. And it was him standing up on stage, 1,500 people being like, we're here to see you, and applauding. And just for him walking out, before he said a word, you could see he was like, oh, like, this is better, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know whatever I got off of fucking heroin or Oxycontins, I can get off this. And so this was a dude who always had problems paying bills. He'd get his money off of a movie and stuff, spending on ridiculous things like toy motorcycles and whatnot. But now, after like touring with Jay and Bob Get Old for a better part of 2 years at this point, he bought himself a house. Like, literally talked himself into a house. He was always like, I wish I could just have a house. I don't understand why I can't do it. He's like, one time he said, it was so bittersweet. He goes, I wish I had what you have, man. I just want to have a wife and a kid and a house, and I can't fucking put that together. Yeah. It's like, I don't know how to do that and shit. And now he's almost there. Like, he had the wife, and you know, in the beginning, she was with him before, while he was clean, so she didn't see the fucking drug time, but then she was with him when he relapsed. So suddenly she was like, who the fuck? It was like Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. And then so she kept invested and kind of saved him, brought him back and shit like that. So he had the wife, but having the house was such a big component of it. He lived on people's couches, he paid rent and shit. But now he owns his own house in the Hollywood Hills, and that he did that simply by sitting up there and being like, one time I did this, one time I did this, and doing it in an entertaining fashion. But he talked himself into stability and a future. That's the power of podcasting. That's why when I go out on a stage, if I'm doing Q&A or sitting down with the podcasting, or if I'm showing a movie afterwards, people go, I want to make films. I said, look, that's great. Do it. But know this. It's like playing hockey. It's the most expensive sport on the planet. Like, you can't just pick up a ball and go. Right. It requires film, stock, and yes, the democratization of technology and media dictates that you can shoot a film on your phone and edit it on your phone and upload it to YouTube. So those costs are very low and stuff. That all being said, man, fuck, I got lost in what I was just saying. It was a great summation point.
It was going to be great. That all being said, the power of podcasting.
Power of podcasting, thank you. When I stand on stage, I say, if you want to express yourself, film is a very expensive way to do it. You really want to express yourself and do it inexpensively. You open up your laptop or your fucking smartphone, you just press record, and you start talking. And you talk to people you like or people you found interesting. And you talk like you're the fucking star of something. Because we're so used to being entertained. And this is the first generation where they're kind of getting it. Oh, we can be entertaining as well. And that's the kind of thing I like to push people toward, because A, that means that I'll have something to watch for the next few fucking years. It's inspiring and fucking it gives you a kick to see other artists take off and kind of start their journey and shit like that. Something good's going to come out of it. But also, it's just your legend grows. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you become the guy who launched 1,000 ships. Like we did that with Clerks. And yeah, maybe some of the ships were leaky and sank, but people saw that movie, and just like the way I saw Slacker, said, I want to do that. Now people hear the podcast, mine, yours, whoever the fuck's, Mark's, and they go, oh, I want to do that. They'll sit there and listen for 100 episodes before they suddenly go, I could do this as well. I'm kind of interesting. And it begins, and more people are doing it, man. And then that to me, it's an exciting time to be alive as an artist, because you're watching so many fucking people who would never have thought about art before suddenly pick it up as an option, and not just as a living, but just as an outlet. You know, it's a cool time.
And that entrance and I think actually I was going to ask you about self-inflicted wounds, but I actually feel like the Southwest Story was your self-inflicted wounds.
What kind of was? I was going to say it dovetailed into self-inflicted
Yeah, it was beautifully. But I think that the transformative power of going through something challenging and figuring out who you are, figuring out what's important to you, that experience for you, what you talked about was how that whole thing changed your life for the better, for the positive, changed your life, changed Jason's life. So
yeah, it's weird. The trickle down was Muse as well, because it wouldn't have happened. That's why I can't like bitch anymore about it. Like, I'll still take shots at him and be like, Southwest, the Nazis of the air and shit. and it wasn't just me. Like, I felt vindicated when remember fucking one of the dudes, I think it was Billy Joe from Green Day. They fucking tossed him off of Southwest Flight because like his pants are sagging. And then one of the chicks from the L Word was kissing her
girlfriend.
They're like, they're gay. Get off the plane.
Right.
So I felt like, look, this is your.
I didn't pay $96 to be insulted like this.
It's your grandma's airline.
Yeah,
she don't want to see saggy pants, no lesbians or fat kids. Like, it's just, you don't want to fly this airline. So I'll take the shots. But that all being said, the ripple effect, the good that came out of it, I can't deny. Like all these podcasts, like, you know, the fact that there are a bunch on our site at Smodcast, that comes from like, I have nothing to hide anymore. Like I was kind of laid bare and everybody knows I'm fat. So I'm just going to embrace it. And at this point, I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want. And not in a shitty way of like, hey, everybody, I'm here to fucking insult you. Not at all. Yeah. I'm here to just kind of share what's on my head and heart. Thankfully, what's on my head and heart isn't shitty, negative, and sexist.
No, it's generally positive.
Yeah, it's kind of
I still got a picture of you fucking a flashlight, but
it's a horribly, imagine Jabba fucking a flashlight.
And with that picture, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on my show. That was awesome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
I love how we came back to Leia again.
Always
comes back to Leia.
What would have happened if my parents did?
Yeah, they were like, you know, it's been real. So my mom took my sister, and my dad took me because he was like, which one can care for itself? I was big enough to like, you know, make meals and clean up after myself. So he took me.
It's a smart call. Yeah. How far apart did you guys live?
We both lived in Oakland. Like, I grew up in San Francisco, but then we both lived in Oakland for a while. And then my dad and I moved back to San Francisco. So yeah, like not far. I take the bus to my mom's house. I talk to her all the time. Right. You know, call her for advice and stuff like that.
Does that shape what you do? Having your parents split up at all?
You know, it's funny because I want to be one of those people who has feelings and stuff. Who feels shit. But it was just like, I don't know. Kids are pretty malleable. You just deal with the situation that you're in. I loved it. My dad was hands-on enough to shape me and give me like discipline and a work ethic, but not so hands-on. But hands-off enough to let me do my own thing. So my dad was like really big on independence. He's like, you have a couple of responsibilities and fulfill those responsibilities and pretty much you can do whatever you want.
What was he like with the boys?
Terrifying, but terrifying. And then he gave up because he had his own dating life. And he's like, if I keep an eye on you, I can't get laid myself. So goodbye. My dad tells the best story about, I snuck out once to go dancing.
Where? To what?
To like an awful club, like an 18 and over club. And I've been this tall since I was like 11, so I could sneak into it. It's called the Palladium. It was in North Beach, right around from Lola, the place with the giant flash and teddies. So I used to go there all the time. It was during the New Wave era. It's terrible, terrible period of our nation's cultural history. And I would dress up like kind of a giant, like lumpy black Madonna. And my dad, and he told me I couldn't go dancing one night. So I snuck out, you know, I did the thing like the after school special where you build a body out of pillows and then you like, you know, sneak out the window. You literally
did the Ferris Bueller.
Absolutely. Which by the way, does not work. Yeah. Has never worked except for in movies. So I climb out the window. My friends drive me down there and my dad hears the fucking window go up. I mean, he's like, this bitch. So he gives me like enough time to get down there. And then he just comes and pulls up in front. And then the guys are like, there's a black Terminator on a motorcycle waiting for you outside. And you know, I didn't say anything. My dad was on side. I didn't say anything. You know, he just looks at you and you're like, oh, I have to puke. So he grounds me. And the story he tells us that I grounded you, but I immediately realized that if you had to be home, I had to be home watching you. I was never going to get to go out. So I took you off grounding like the next day. I was like,
had super dad.
I did have super dad. I mean, he was a loving dad, but he was also ambivalent dad. But he was a loving ambivalent dad. He was just like,
what do you mean ambivalent dad?
Well, you know, he worked really hard. He worked like 70-hour a week. So he wasn't around all the time.
Right.
I felt loved. I felt cared for. The house was safe. There was always food. I always had money. I knew he'd show up if I needed him, but this was not helicopter. I don't know about your parents. This was not helicopter parenting time.
Oh, I am a helicopter parent.
Oh, see, my dad, I was like, Dad, I need a ride to this party. It's in the middle of the worst part of town. I might get murdered. He's like, well, see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just not a pick up and drive there dad.
It's so weird
ever,
to say that. I was just thinking about my own man the other day when I was walking, and I love my father. He's a great guy. He's passed now. He's dead. I hate saying passed. He fucking died. It was nuts.
Thanks for coming over to my side of things.
I can't
People die, Kevin.
Nice. They
People
fucking
die.
died.
Yeah.
He didn't fall in a sinkhole, but shit. His heart fell in some sort of sinkhole.
Oh, no.
But I was thinking about, like, when I tend to talk about him, you know, people say, oh, you loved your father so much. And I go, yeah, of course I did. But I think that was the kind of relationship we had. Like, he had enough interest in me to take like one day a week for me. He had 3 kids. And he worked at night at the post office. So he was, you know, he'd get home at 7 in the morning.
Sleep
and shit,
probably,
go
right?
to sleep. Yeah. He'd say goodbye to everyone as we went to school, go to sleep, get up in the afternoon. So we'd see him then and stuff. Then he'd go to sleep for a few more hours, get up at night, and go to work. So, you know, he'd come to the shows. If he did a play or something, he'd be there on the Saturday night show, not the Friday night show.
Mm-hmm.
But he worked a fucking shit ton. And when he wasn't working, you know, he always had a series of shit to do because my mom, like, mow this lawn, mow my mom's lawn, because she lived around the corner from us, my grandma. So, you know, and I remember him like sitting there listening to music by himself. He was one of these country music fans. God love him. Which is probably why I'm
in
not
Jersey, right? Jersey?
Fan. It's crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah. And then not even like South Jersey, where, you know, right. It makes sense where they're fucking hee-hawing it up. It was just this weird kind of blip in the family. His brother and sisters like country music. I don't know why. So this was a guy that didn't really ask for much, didn't really do much and shit. And I thought about the quality time we spent together. We really didn't spend talking.
Yeah.
Like he'd pick me up from school on a Wednesday, half day, and then we'd go see a movie every fucking week. Every week I'd be like, a relative has died. I have to leave early.
That's adorable.
Every week fucking our family was dropping like rats. Like in the Catholic school, they're like, you've lost a lot of relatives.
But they were Catholic, so they understood.
Totally for. Okay. Apparently I did a little research. I read the article.
Okay. I was going to say, Kevin, what, you have so much time. How do you get anything? Do you sleep?
But come on, you fall down a rabbit hole and shit like this. Because the moment you're like, this story could affect me personally if I fall into a sinkhole.
Sadly,
you start reading up on it.
Every internet rabbit hole ends with porn. So thank God.
I did. I was like, I got to catch up on the sinkhole. Finally, I was watching Goatsy pull his ass apart, and I was like, oh, everything's right with the world again.
And all of a sudden, there's like a whole new world of sinkhole porn you didn't know existed.
And it's pretty dirty.
But being
it's built on limestone. This is why it happened.
Oh, okay.
When you build on limestone, apparently it's a porous rock. The wetter it gets, the fucking crumblier it gets. So it's like building a house on fucking dry talcum powder that's solid. And
inevitably it's going to go.
Yes. But who the fuck knew how deep it would go? They talked about another story in Florida where like a whole fucking block and half of a pool and $1 million home also fucking eaten by a sinkhole.
Wow.
So now yet another thing to throw on the fucking list.
It's a long list.
This dude just goes about, he's 38 years old, Aisha.
Young guy.
And he's just got a wife and kid, and he's just like, good night, everybody. I'm going to turn in early.
Now I feel badly.
You wind up in the belly of the earth. But who are you mad at in that instance? Can you get like well, when you're dead, you're probably not mad at
the Greek god of Earth.
You think so?
I can't think. I was going to think of his name.
Mother Gaia?
Mother
Gaia.
Like,
oh, Mother Gaia. Who built this house between the cleavage of Mother Gaia? You got to be mad, though. Like, when a death like that, with a shark death, you want to be mad. Like, I'm mad at the ocean. I shouldn't have been in the ocean, or I shouldn't have been in the ocean. You have no one to blame, and I got to tell you, at least he wasn't tempting fate. He went to bed. People die. Yeah. I mean, I'm dead inside. I realize that. But yeah, where's the magic? People die.
People die, man.
You're gonna die.
This existence is empty and bleak, and then you go.
Scott Mosier's a little more fun and hopeful.
Scott Mosier's hoping he's gonna get laid.
I'm throwing things out there, hoping for you to go. Nah.
Does Scott talk about the fact that you smoke these things that look like
Let's jump on that
hippie marijuana cigarettes?
Aisha was fascinated by this before we went, and I was like, wait, fuck it, don't leave it in the locker room. Take it to the floor.
I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but this is shit I smoked in middle school.
Yeah. Well, that's right? I'm evolving backwards.
Are you?
Think about it. I took care of my shit early.
You did it early. You were motivated, making shit
done and done. So now I'm going backwards.
Now Kevin is in a bathrobe and underoos,
like Benjamin
shorty
Button.
Underoos, smoking fucking Krakatoa Cortex,
like a fat Benjamin Button. I'm going backwards in time.
I love
this is the way it should be done. I think. Like I've been thinking about it a lot. Weed is wasted on the youth, man. The kids in high school that I went to school with and shit, like who burned and stuff like that. You need this later in life when fucking shit's not going.
When you need the edges to be rubbed down.
No doubt. When you're a kid, everything's fucking easy.
Yeah. No, and you're smoking pot to get more mellow when you're 15.
Yeah. It's like, how much better do you want it?
Exactly.
Greedy pricks.
I'm going to get high and then I'm going to go home. Someone's going to make me something to eat.
She's talking about these cones I got, though.
They're crazy.
These empty cones. They're basically pre-rolled cigarette rolling papers.
And then you just stuff them with whatever you like.
You pack some weed. Yeah, I choose, of course, just au naturel weed. You pack it with some ground up weed and you go for crazy.
Wow.
I used to be a cigarette smoker. So this enabled me to quit cigarette smoking.
So now but you're literally holding a giant joint as if it was a cigarette.
You say giant like it's.
Like, is that not a giant,
Can I get a witness?
enormous?
Does that look big?
That looks like a huge
It looks like a cigarette.
My assistant is also of the brown persuasion and I'm actually looking to see if he thinks it's a big one or a little one. I think it's big.
I think
it's impressive.
Anything that looks like
fit for a film mogul,
king size cigarette
for a medium mogul. You have a medium mogul joint.
I thought you said medium mogul. I was like,
medium,
you just won my
medium
heart.
mogul.
Because usually it's people are like XXXL mogul.
You're a medium mogul in my book, Kevin.
We're going back to you. I'm not going to let you take it off. Okay. But these are cones, and how it operates is they're empty rolling papers. You pour in weed, you twist, and
that's exciting.
It makes it easier to smoke. Like, think about, have you known people who are like, I start rolling my own cigarettes because it makes me slow down and smoke less.
Yes.
This is the answer to that.
Fill it up, stuff it in.
Totally. Make burrito, 3 in a row.
Burrito without filling.
All right. So take me back. So you're being raised by a dad who is essentially a Marine of some sort.
But like a funny Marine. So like a guy who tells great stories, a guy who uses the word motherfucker liberally, a guy who like would kick all the shit off this table to tell a story. Like he's that guy. He's like whipped the tablecloth off the table. And then that motherfucker right there, man, I fucked the spotted owl in the ass. He's that guy.
So you were raised by Reggie Hammond in 48 hours.
I was. Reggie Hammond and Action Jackson had a baby. That was my dad. And just the funniest guy, construction worker. He did every kind of like, hard labor job. He was a construction worker. He was colored and glistening, and he drove a motorcycle for most of my childhood.
So you had cool dad.
I had a cool dad who I hated. I mean, every cool dad is the dad where everyone's like, I love your dad. He's the gas. And you're like, oh, fuck me now. This. Yeah.
I never say fuck me now in regards to my father.
No,
ever,
no.
So
I mean, you know what I mean? Like a metaphorical fuck me now. Just,
what is
universe?
Why didn't you like him?
Just when you're a kid, your dad, like my dad is the most hands-on, active parent. Like I smoked a lot when I was started smoking. Cigarettes, like 7th grade, and I kept insisting to my dad that I'd quit smoking. I was like, quit! I just smoked this because my friends are smoking, and and then I'd just be puffing away at the bus stop. My dad would be across the street, literally all in leather on a black Kawasaki Ninja, watching me through my like fucking binoculars, and my friends would be like, dude, that's your dad. Or a black Terminator.
What was he watching?
Watching me just to see what I was doing. I just couldn't lie. I couldn't lie.
Did he used to be Special Forces?
My dad grew up in Pittsburgh, which is almost like Special Forces. He just grew up with, like only male child in his family. His dad died during World War II and 4 sisters and a mom. And my dad was the man of the house.
Fighting in World War II?
He was a seaman. Seaman, yeah. So he died in service, yeah.
Really?
I know
at sea?
Yeah, at sea.
You have a relative that died at war at sea?
He was black, so he probably just got pushed off the boat or something like that. Horrible. But I know I would terrible.
Think about that, man. Did they ever recover a body?
I don't know.
Or is that guy just fucking lost?
Yeah, just gone. Yeah, just gone.
Isn't that weird, man? Yeah. Like in your family.
I asked my dad, he goes, it was service related. That's all he'll tell me. Like he won't talk anymore about
Meaning like fucking a torpedo hit.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I got to get it to my dad's old enough that he may go without ever telling me.
This is fucking horrible and shouldn't happen to anybody or any parent, but I just read a news story. I mean, I always add to the list of shit to be terrified about. Death at sea is way up there.
Really?
That's why I never joined any fucking military service.
Why do I think death at sea would be okay?
You're out of your mind. Think about the Natalie Wood death. You're in the inky black darkness drowning, fucking calling out for Robert Wagner.
You lie back and you let the blackness take you.
You're out of your mind. There's
Everything
no way.
is a sex metaphor with me.
Well, all right. Well, when you put it like that. Yeah, but in the sex metaphor, there's no, and then a shark bit your fucking arm.
Or then your lungs filled with fluid.
I read this fucking story today that was just like, oh God, another one to add to the list. Just happened in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going, this is another reason not to live in Florida, but it's on a list of at least 500 reasons not to live anywhere.
There's a long list.
There's a fucking dude who went to sleep. His brother, he's got there's 2 brothers in the same house. He's got a wife and a kid. Good night. He goes to bed, closes his door, gets in his bed. A fucking sinkhole.
Yes. Oh, I saw this too.
Opens up under his fucking bedroom and swallows him. I should stop laughing. Look at it laughing. This is a horrible story. Swallows the man up whole. He's screaming as he goes down. His brother, stop laughing. Look at her. She's in tears laughing. There's a vein in your forehead.
I feel terrible.
His brother rushes in to try to save him. He gets trapped.
Oh no. Okay, see how I'm acting?
Now you're stopping biting your lip. You're like, the misery of others. The brother tries to save him. I read this thing. I was heartbroken. He's like, I tried to save him. I could have swore I heard my brother calling for me, but I couldn't reach him. But he had to get fucking rescued.
But now that I read that the deal is they can't get to the other brother. Like they think he's gone.
He's swallowed by the earth, and they don't even know if they could bring in equipment to pull him out. That's what I'm saying. Like when something like that happens, who do you get mad at? Like I read another article about some cat in New Zealand got torn apart by 4 fucking sharks. One shark, who wasn't even a big one, 4-footer, came up, took a bite, the other ones were like
smelled it, right?
the feeding frenzy began, and they all attacked this fucking dude. And then the lifeguards came by and started shotgunning into the ocean, just flat out fucking firing into the ocean.
Right, going bananas.
And this guy's dead.
He was dead long before they showed up.
Exactly.
If you're gonna get eaten by sharks, that's the way to go. No, that's the way to go. Yes.
Listen,
if you gotta choose,
here's the best and only. Yeah, here's how you choose: in bed. After you nutted. I love you. You're like, throw me in the ocean. Feed me to a shark.
I'm just saying, if you're trying to think of like all the worst scenarios for death, being ripped apart by 4 sharks is highly superior to being nibbled to death by 1.
All right, fair enough.
So there's that. Hopefully it's over quickly, right? And then
what's going through your head though? Fuck.
You're just what are the chances? What are the chances? What are the chances? Oh, fuck me. All right, not again. but then being swallowed by a sinkhole, first of all, you're mad at God if you believe in it. If not, you're mad at the infernal chaos of things, right? Or
are you mad at the state of Florida? This house was built in 1970. He's a man who worked with his hands.
Yes, with his hands. Was a meat cutter. He was a butcher. He was a deep sea fisherman.
Can I ask you a quick question? Yeah. Since you're raised by a man who works with his hands, were you ever satisfied with a girly man like myself who's just like, oh, I write my feelings down. I talk about what's on my mind and shit like that.
Sometimes I blow it out into monologues. I wish other people talk about what's on my mind.
Sometimes I drop wicked truth in a 1-page monologue. I've always felt less of a man. Like even my father who worked for the post office, but didn't like hump mail. He worked canceling stamps in the sexual center. That guy seemed like more of a man because A, he had to like mow the lawns on the weekend, and B, you did a job he hated. That to me is a man.
That's a guy.
That's an adult.
That's an adult. Yes. Going and doing something with distaste and yet showing up every day. Absolutely.
I've never felt like an adult. I've never had to work with my hands. A few jobs I've had to work with my hands. I was like, fuck, all it made me want to do is find a job where I didn't. I gravitate toward convenience store shit where I'm pushing buttons and shit like Rosie Robot.
You just stand there and be sarcastic and push a button.
Pretty much. Where like, until somebody's like, what'd you say? I'm like, nothing, you know. But that's my point. If you're raised by a man, were you only attracted to men, or did you? Because I know you play geek games and you're like a guy's girl.
I'm more nerdy than my dad for sure. It's interesting though, because my husband, from a personality perspective, is the opposite of my father. Like he's super interior and quiet. Oh, he's a fucking man.
What does he do?
He builds.
Dumb question. So does he build?
No. He's an attorney, but he does build. So here's the thing: he's an attorney, but he does build. So like he's this really interior, kind of funny, quiet guy. Okay. But like he's like, I just built a sawhorse out of leftover lumber. That's what he does on the weekend. I'm like, babe, what'd you do? He's like, I made this shelf for my computer equipment.
That voice when he talks to you, just
in my head when I'm trying to get in the mood. In college, he's my college boyfriend.
Get out of here.
Sophomore year.
So you guys been together how
since
long?
College? Oh my God, 19 years. 19 years in May.
Are you one of these ladies that's like, I don't fucking talk about my age, you prick?
No, it's too late because it's on the internet. But I'm very old.
In the age of the internet, though, like, you can't really do that shit anymore. Yeah, no, you look fucking fantastic.
Right.
So wait, you met this man in college and you stayed with him?
Stayed with him.
You have a podcast called Girl on Guy, which sounds so fucking suggestive, and you've been with the same fucking guy.
I started early.
Almost 20 years.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Where'd you guys meet? Doing what?
Well, I was dating his best friend. That's how we met. So there you go.
Is that guy still in his life?
Yes, and he came to our wedding, and we just.
And when you say dating, do you mean?
Yeah, I mean fucking, definitely fucking.
The fuck out of here.
Yeah, I was definitely fucking.
That now, come on.
I got
for the first like few months of your relationship. Did that bug your man, or is he so like?
No, he won. So my dude won. Right, yeah, he won.
See, man, that's like I didn't have that alpha thinking. Even if I would have won, I would have been like, what was the other guy? Like, you probably like the other guy better.
Now there's a rabbit hole you should never go down.
Yeah, well, that's fucking the story of my life.
Take some yoga classes, learn some tricks, and put that dude out of her mind.
So where'd you guys meet? Doing what? Some kind of
I went to Dartmouth and I don't think my husband would object or lie, would object to this, but I like him big. Cause when I was in high school, all the guys were really tiny. Right. So by the time I got to college, finally there were like guys bigger than me. So, I dated some athletes. I dated a few athletes.
My beating heart when you say big.
I don't. Yes, you'll always be my medium mogul.
You mean tall?
Tall. The football players. I dated. Okay. I was kind of working on a corner of the.
There's a bunch of guys listening, going full of hope as you redefine big.
Winch up my shorts.
You mean more tall?
Yes, I do.
Big and tall.
Tall.
So he was a big dude.
He was a big dude. He's like 6 in college. He was like 6'7".
You're kind of tall too.
260.
How? What are you?
I'm 6. I'm 6 feet tall.
Yeah, you're definitely taller than me.
Yeah, big lady. But I make everybody feel. I try to make the men in my life always feel large.
How do you do that?
Just by leaning and stooping a lot.
No. Subvert your fucking Amazonian womanhood while I just lean on a wall.
I was like, Kevin is playing footsie with me and his toes are very wet, but there's an animal on it. Hey, come here.
I do. Not only do I have toes, but I have a prehensile tongue.
Prehensile tongue coming
my
in.
toes.
Your second toe is licking my foot. That would be a really great way to come on to a lady. But we were like, is this toe licking my
foot?
I
hear you like big guys. All right, take us back to your dad then.
Okay.
Why do you keep saying dad? No mom? Is mom there?
So my mom is a super big part of my life, and she's awesome. But my parents divorced when I was like 10. And then
how many siblings you got?
Just one.
Brother or
sister, younger sister.
So
she was 6. She took it a lot harder than I did. But also because they weren't rich, they didn't fight over anything because there was nothing to fight about. So they just were like, all right, we're calling it. Boom. You take one, I'll take the other. See you on the other side. So
that's welcome to Smodcast. I'm Kevin Smith. Okay, kids, Scott Mosier felled with some sort of bronchial infection in Dallas. Not here again. Doesn't matter. Got me a co-host, man. You hear that? The dulcet tones of a lady voice. Now, when you normally hear dulcet tones of a lady voice on a Smodco program, it's my wife bitching at me about fucking how I fucked up something and done something wrong. I don't think we're going to have that today, man. We're going to have a little fucking love fest crossover, man. This is a podcast that begins at Smodcast, but then goes over and finishes on a very popular show that y'all should be listening to, and you probably already all are, called Girl on Guy. Yes. Give it up for today's co-host, which is so fucking rare. It's usually just a series of people I know and shit. Give it up for Aisha Tyler. Aisha. How, like when that song was popular, how many times do you have to tell people that's not how my name is spelled?
Oh, no, it was not.
I'm talking
that.
About the ABC song.
The ABC song, which had like an E and it had a bunch of
It was
extra.
IESH. Aisha.
My people were good at phonetics. No, I never, it was not that. It was right around, it was like, what else was like, It Takes Two, Rob Bass. It was like that era. So I did a lot of requesting my own, a lot of really like ill-considered requesting of my own song. Like, play my shit. You know, that's not cute. It's never,
yeah, it
lady.
is.
No, it's not.
Somebody had a fucking song called like Kevin Smith. I would have it on nonstop play constantly.
Someone needs to do that immediately. One of your listeners.
I don't wait for people to do shit anymore. I just do it for myself. So over the course of the next week, I'll be composing Kevin Smith.
You want me to do some? He was born in no head.
Give me background of like, I met him at the playground. We'll keep it innocent.
He walked from his house in some beautiful house slippers.
I looked at your podcast number recently, and you're creeping up on 100. You've been committed.
Yeah. We're
do this. Put your mic up like
this. It's I'm not. I didn't put the right end into my mouth.
The girl on Guy host is like point this fucking phallic thing directly
you have a totally
at my
different.
face.
We have our mics look the same, but I have like Shure.
Fuzzy
you just put talking to the business end, but yours is like a side.
Pointer.
Yeah, yours
Mine
is like a side job. It does. It's adorable.
It's more of a design thing.
There we go. I sound so much better.
As yours.
Mine just is tough and I can take it anywhere. It's like the mic that you can drop on stage as a comic and it still functions. That's the mic I have.
I did that once at a show and I felt so, I'm not a comic, but I was on stage answering a question and I told a story and it's about it. For dramatic effect, I dropped the microphone. I forgot to tell the sound people I was going to do it.
Oh, wow.
After the show. Cause there was a dude wearing headphones, monitoring everything because we were shooting it.
Oh, okay.
And that dude got blasted. I felt so bad. I was like, Doug, I'm so fucking sorry.
Wow, sorry, Doug.
Yeah.
I drop a mic like just to show the club I don't give a shit about their equipment.
Really?
I'm like, look, yes, I'm taking this mic with me. You're going to need a new one you'll never forget me.
Too late. I blew it up.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone just follow that, bitches.
Let's go back to your podcast. So you're creeping up on 100.
100, yeah.
You're committed in a way that most cats aren't. Like once most cats get a job in real media or grown up media, they don't, feel the need to kind of slum around in the podcast world.
I yelled at somebody today, actually, who shall be made nameless. I said, I don't need to make this fucking show. I make it because I love it. Like literally said that to somebody. And then I was embarrassed at the tone I took, but I was like, I make it because I love it. I'm up at 4 a.m. putting this thing together. I don't make any money from it. It's a total money hole.
Right.
I make it because I love it.
It's
you know?
It's where you get to be, you get to say what you say, and without
It's
having
yours.
to be like, oh, we got to fucking cut off in 7 minutes.
Yeah, or I got to say this thing that this guy gave me a piece of paper. To
Somebody else wrote something.
Yeah,
put in my
exactly.
mouth. Take me back though to the beginning, man. Where does it all begin? Where do you get the fucking idea that you should be up in front of people? The egotistical idea of doing anything
hubris.
Public. It takes hubris to kind of do this sort of thing. Where did that come from? Where did you come from?
I grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
I'm a poor black child. I mean, a joke and yet so literal. You know, it's interesting because I never thought of myself as a funny kid, and I wasn't a performer, but I come from funny people. Like my dad looks like Action Jackson, and I'm not fucking around.
So he's muscly.
He's muscly, but he's got like that big man, like that black man mustache, just like robust and serious.
Just the stash?
Just the stash, no beard. And it's like, it's just like licorice